Welcome to session 3 of Gauntlet Hangouts, World of Shadows. We are shadow running in the Renraku Arcology Shutdown. Lots of shadows. Very 90s. But I'm very excited. Today we have Andrew, Aaron, and Lou with us tonight. Arthur unfortunately was unable to make it. But we're gonna have a lot of fun anyway. Returning characters: Red Rum, Sharper, and of course Rat-a-tat. Wanted to just kind of touch base with you guys about the use of that labyrinth move, and kind of a moment that, on reflection, I felt was a little crummy last week. So, Sharper uses a hold to find something useful, right? Which in this case was an elevator shaft that gets us closer to Karen, right? Which is great. Now, when we rolled that navigation move, we got a 7 to 9 result. So that means that there's some danger involved. I unfortunately kind of I misused the move, right? So the idea is you use the move, you navigate, right? And you accumulate hold. And then you get to spend the hold. So those complications that arise from the roll should be separate from you getting to use your hold. So when you find that elevator shaft and use that hold, and I said, but that elevator shaft is filled with spikes, right? I attached the complication to the wrong thing. I mixed the wrong result. So there should have been danger involved before you even spent the hold. And then you use the hold and we get to the elevator. So, and even further, I think I should have said, well, it sounds like you're trying to get closer to Karen. How about you stockpile that hold that you want to use there? And we'll just call that narrative description for you getting closer, because you need to technically accumulate 3 at once to spend on Karen. But the thing I felt most crummy about in that scenario was, here's the pit of spikes, right? Also, you have to go through it, because if you don't, this death squad's going to shoot you, right? That was pretty crummy of me. I think I had in my mind, here's a pit of spikes. Oh, wait, Sharper would never want to go in that pit of spikes. He's really smart. But I have to get him to go through the pit of spikes because he got the 7 to 9. So I was like, but that was really crummy. So I wanted a little bit to touch on that. I apologize. I think that moment was bad and it could have been handled better. But I want to talk a little bit about the use of the labyrinth move and the sort of GMing method I'm kind of going for with this, right? So on the Discern Realities podcast, which is like the Dungeon World podcast that we do on the Gauntlet, right? Jason mentioned his style of GMing. He calls it like gaming in like a corridor, if that makes sense. So the idea is it's similar to this very taboo word in the role-playing community, which is railroading, right? Which is something I get and something I kind of did last session that was kind of crummy. That's not exactly what I'm going for. I kind of have the points along the way in my mind, but I want using this labyrinth move lets me put more of the narrative control along the way in the hands of the players, right? So you get something useful or valuable. Technically, with the wording of the move, I might be the one who tells you what that useful or valuable thing is, right? You as a player might say, I think I need a little bit something more before we go on to this final battle, right? But the move does say you describe the area it's in. Now, I think that's a little weird to say, I think I want something nice, even though I don't know what that nice thing is. So I usually say, what do you find that's nice? What's the area it's in? And again, that's kind of along the way, right? And then that's where I had an issue with kind of conflating the 7 to 9 result too, right? So with that in mind, I'm going to let you keep your hold there, Sharper. So we're still at 2 hold. And I'm going to work harder on separating the results of the navigation move with the use of the hold from the move. If that makes sense. Like, again, I think a PBTA, like stand in defense or something like that you might use, right? That's a move that has a mixed result but still has hold. So it's important not to dirty the waters there. Okay. But that's just, again, to get everybody on the same kind of page for expectations wise of what this is going to look like. It's kind of like a railroad that you're building the tracks to, if that makes sense. Because I know this more satisfying conclusion to the story is you finding the mission goal, meeting the bad guy. When I read in the module, the players might not ever even meet the bad guy, I was like, that sounds kind of lame. So I want that to happen. I want your death to be the thing that threatens that happening, right? Like if this was a mystery, I don't want you not finding the clues to be the threat, right? Pardon me. I have a tickle. So any thoughts about that before we move on?
Luckily enough, the module has a evil megalomaniac. Oh, I can't say the word.
Maniacal.
Megalomaniacal entity at the behind the scenes. So any sort of railroading is almost written off because that's what the empowered entity might have done. Actually, I feel like you covered the tracks pretty well, and I think we were all in the interest of keeping the session going forward. It's also great to see another DM who overanalyzes their session afterwards and then comes back and is like, I did everything wrong, and I need your I beg your forgiht
Well, you guys did everything right. I was the one who did wrong stuff. So
also, even if it was slightly railroady in that elevator scene, it was still a pretty fun railroad to go on. I enjoyed riding on it.
I enjoyed the opportunity to try to bring what was her name? Astro's story weirdly full circle. That was fun. But then again, Andrew was the one who spent the hold, so maybe I should just let him talk.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm not familiar. I haven't played Dungeon World before, so this is like and so I'm always interested, to hear how things fit together, so I understand as a player, and also should I ever run it, it gives me insight as to how that works. So, I mean, I just think, let's just keep it rolling.
Okay, cool. I'm down with that. So the kind of way that I see that those pieces fitting together, right, is that you give me a cool bit of like fiction, I'll give you a cool bit of fiction. Together, we're working towards the end goal, and you might not see that, but it's happening. So you're still seeing the mechanical bits of, oh, we have this many hold now, we have this many hold now, but and it's still in your hands when that's used. But I have a couple bits of ammunition for those mixed results too.
So, like, as a party, we have accumulated 2 hold. Is that how that works?
Correct.
Okay.
But moving forward with our scene, right?
Where did we leave off? I feel like we left off on another roll of mine, but I can't remember what.
So that was another 7 to 9 result, of course, which are the trickiest ones. Our sort of parting shot for last episode was Rat-a-tat's hand kind of coming up on the top rung. So we know that you made it through, but we're kind of thinking about what that cost you. So I know goals for the short term, I want to get us to a place of flag scenes. Long-term goals, I want to see what we want to do with our hold.
I was going to suggest a potential cost, seeing as Arthur's not here, is that the rigger didn't make it through the like he's been either down the bottom with those guards still, or has been taken away, or something's happened, like just in terms of getting the narrative there of why this dude that was with us is not here anymore.
That could be a useful thing. I will say it's not 100% necessary. Part of the open table philosophy is that sometimes people are just in the background. And I know that Synchro did make his role. So I don't necessarily want to take that success away from him. We'll probably just give him a love letter for next session about where he went off to and all of this.
I'm fine with the cost here being something to rat-a-tat and not just like a narrative alibi for Synchro or something.
Yeah, and I've had all week to think about it, but to be honest, I haven't come up with anything satisfying. I mean, obvious things come into my mind include something with Astro. It could be something as simple as, hey, you don't have access to her services anymore. What does that look like? Mind, or it could be damage. How were you harmed along the way?
In my mind, that was Astro's last service. So I wouldn't have been able to keep in contact with her after that, regardless. For me, like, interesting costs could have been something like I had a fetish, but I bought it like a bad one. And it was actually a fetish for like blood magic or something. Or like my totem. I don't think I betrayed my totem. I think I was curious and like strategic about my things. But like another interesting cost would be like the rat has. I have the attention of the rat totem now, and he is whispering in my ear, telling me to take the coward and greedy way out and leave these suckers behind, kind of thing.
That's an interesting idea too, because that ties into another interesting thing here. This is unfortunately going to be Aaron's last session with us as well, because he's not going to be able to attend the 4th. Is that still true, Aaron?
Yes, I think so. As sure as scheduling anything is in the 21st century.
So that could be a nice sort of jumping off point towards maybe getting us to some sort of dramatic ending for Rat-a-tat.
And one thing to tie into it potentially is, for a corp of this size, they can afford to have, 360 protection. So, I mean, did they have any supernatural protections that he triggered on his way up that we didn't realize that could be a part of the overall explanation?
That might be actually something the most interesting, is that we've seen a lot of tech and we've seen a lot of like military gear, but we haven't seen like their magic defense yet.
Like what if he climbed up and he grabbed a vine that had thorns that like injected into his bloodstream that will now steadily pulse towards his heart until he dies, because he's radiant magic. And so his goal,
he only got a 7 then.
His goal is to kind of overcome that defense before it overcomes him.
So Andrew, when is the expansion to the Blaze in the Dark heist deck coming out? That includes the thorns going to my heart.
The wind vines.
Tomorrow. Good times.
I have that deck, by the way. It's beautiful.
I'll use something for the module, jumping off from Andrew. So we'll start there, right? You climb up out of the elevator shaft. Right? And we saw your one hand sort of unmolested.
It looked like a hand.
It's just a regular hand. Your second hand comes up. This is the molested hand. It has a strange, like, sort of metallic-looking band around it. Right? Almost
like,
as
is it
if
embedded in my skin?
Yeah, almost as if you'd gotten handcuffed by something as you come up. But as others are looking more closely, the sort of material here, it almost looks like a putty. And it's also like slightly moving. And it's put you in excruciating pain.
Oh, no.
So we'll go ahead and roll D6 for damage, just for fun, because I always forget to make people take damage. And we won't necessarily... do you want to investigate this thing further, or what's your plan here?
Well, I guess like my first thing is like, what is our surroundings at the top of this elevator shaft? We've gotten onto floor 18, which has the magic vault of everything, which holds Karen. What does this floor look like?
Actually, we're like on floor 16. We're still like 2 floors below 18.
Oh shit!
My roll wasn't that great.
Let me roll the die fate.
Yeah.
I will tell you what's going on. I forgot to go to the website.
Do you need me to roll my damage? Do you want me to do that?
Oh yeah, go ahead and do that real quick.
3 damage.
Sounds good. Rude. There we go. Let's get my favorite red D6 with pips.
It's gotta be the
Die
pips.
of fate. Okay, also a 3.
I call it the grapefruit.
So, which of those two is more dangerous? I'm going to re-roll to see which of those two it's going to be. Okay. So, you come across what appears to be a pretty basic, like, office floor, right?
Like
Makes
scratchy
sense.
carpet.
Scratchy carpet, lots of cubicles, right? And this is a pretty big office space because, again, we're like in a huge structure. But there's some things about it that are odd. One thing you notice as soon as you enter in, again, we have these same sort of like low energy generator lights, this pulsing red light, kind of like what you had in those service tunnels, right? So there's this like kind of warm, soft, pulsing red light that's filling everything. It gets pretty dark when it dims out, and doesn't get very bright when it glows at its highest luminescence. But you don't see it necessarily at first because of the red light. But after a few moments, you can see on one of the cheap plaster walls here, right, is this bloody red handprint directly on the wall.
So I get up and I'm like grunting in pain as this armband slowly like cuts off my hand or whatever. And I'm looking around being like, can I rest? This looks safe. I like walls, even if they're thin walls. There's a lot of walls around here. These are good. I feel protected. And then like the red lights strobe and I see clearly that there's this red. How big is this handprint?
It's like human sized.
Okay. Because if it was like a weird, like gigantic handprint.
Hey, big hands aren't weird. Big hands are nice.
I'd just be really worried about the troll it belonged to. Okay, that's all. I see that. And I look to Sharper and I'm like, I guess I like gesture towards the wall and I'm like, this doesn't look safe. What do we do? Do you think those? Does Rat-Tat know about the weird guards that talked to Sharper?
I think we kind of had that confrontation, and then it's like we got to prove ourselves, and we climbed up the shaft in a blaze of glory. I think.
Yeah, with Bushido monologue over.
I don't think we had time to really committee that one.
Yeah. I assume that Sharper's worked with magicians before of some type, and so maybe I'm not like pointing out that my hand is hurting, and I'm more just talking about how that magic was draining. I need to recharge somewhere. This place doesn't look safe. There's blood, though. There's probably been blood everywhere we've gone, but Rat-a-tat's not feeling very safe. There's small kids in hospital grounds running around. Go ahead.
I agree this is not a safe situation. Red Rum, why don't you keep an eye on him? I'm going to scout. Can I do like a scouting move?
Absolutely. What does that look like when you scout?
Basically just checking corridors while I'm looking for if we are in a high security area. Of course, I'm always going to look for the security station. This place is an office node. Doesn't look like it has that. So the only thing that's going to be locked, they generally have specialized supplies. So I'm looking for the IT room where they put things that employees would walk away with.
Okay.
All the staplers.
The reddest of staplers. Actually, I imagine in this environment, everything is chipped and barcoded, so it's like trying to steal from a library. But I mean, if there's an equivalent to like the break room where they keep the good stuff that people would take home, that's what I would. I just want to either find that or find something moving.
Okay. So you're pretty good at remaining undetected if you want to.
Yeah,
right?
stealth is a skill.
So I think we can have that come into play. So we're not necessarily worried about Sharper being caught, in an ambush. I think what we're looking for in a 10 plus result, right, is that you what you find is good, and the lower result would be what you find is like bad or worse, right?
So something turns up either way. It's just one is good for us and one is bad for us. Okay.
So go ahead and roll 2d6 plus, I guess we'll call it intelligence, sort of trying to navigate your way around the cubicle and find a good, useful place, but your stealth skills come into play.
I got a 4.
Hey, so again, you aren't detected, but what you find is worse than you thought. So as you go deeper into this maze of cubicles, right, and we have Red Rum kind of looking out for Rat-a-tat as he's nursing his wrist, you start to get this sort of strange vibe, right? Now, you're a soldier. You've been through lots of deployments, right? This, as you go deeper, it's starting to remind you of some of those engagements you've been on, probably in a more like humid jungle type environment. These cubicles are feeling close. The lights are sort of dim red, like the light filtering through the trees, right? It feels almost humid and warm. What else do you see here that reminds you of those jungles that you traverse through as a soldier?
Let's see. There's also the issue that villages are small enough to be swallowed without a trace. So there's that sickly, sweet smell of the corpse decay in the middle of all the emptiness.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of time until you open a door, and there it all is.
And you do open the door, and you kind of open it quietly. It doesn't creak, right? These are well maintained. And you see a hunched figure. It's a man. He's wearing dress slacks, but the bottoms are all frayed and kind of ripped up. He's not wearing a shirt, but you see he's tied his tie around his forehead, and the tail is sort of hanging behind him. And he's gnawing on a bone, and meat sort of bristly dripping off of it.
And let's just remind ourselves that this is 2 weeks without refrigeration.
Yes. Yes, indeed. But that's what you found. What do you do?
Well, okay, so is this like a mass grave, or is this like a dude chewing on a piece in a copy room?
Yeah, so
I'm picturing sort of like a conference room.
sure. Oh, okay. Let's go for even further. This is a conference room. the table is sort of like thrown to the side.
Wow.
I was wondering if it was like Judge Dredd and they had like the teleconferencing in turnstile things with the screens on them, so people could like jack in and be like, "Oh, clearly I'm not scheduled for this meeting slot."
Yeah, you see, hanging from the ceiling, kind of out of reach, are these sort of cameras, right? That would be used for teleconferencing, right? But they're kind of out of reach. But at one far end of the room is one swivel office desk chair, right? And there's another figure who's sitting in that chair, also chewing on a bone. And as you look to the side, you see sort of like discarded bones of like several different sizes and shapes.
Well, I'm gonna pull back. Did I see a break room on the way in?
We'll say you did, but the fridge has been raided, right?
Basically, I'm just looking for like some coffee so I can like throw it up in the air and walk through it in case they caught my scent.
Yes, that's awesome.
Because I don't want them to sniff their way back. So yeah, I'll go ahead and break the coffee, throw the pod down one way, go down a different way, and rejoin the group.
For sure. Yeah. So what are you two up to right now?
So
you had a moment without Sharper and with pain. What are you doing?
I think I'm in unbearable pain. That after I sent Sharper away, I stopped acting as tough as I was trying to, and I'm trying to distract myself from the pain. And I'm just looking at Red Rum and at his jacket, and I'm like, so what's your gang about? Where's their territory?
We don't have any territory yet. We're still what do you call when you start things? When you're starting things out. We're still starting.
And a Ratat is just like mouthing what you said, still starting. So what, like you're just a clubhouse? Do you have a clubhouse?
No, we don't have we have nothing. It's just a small gang.
So like do you run with other gangs? Like do you know like the Halloweeners or like Ice Picks?
I think he's starting to look more and more embarrassed at the direction of this conversation, and he's to change the subject. He reaches down and he's like, there, little brother. I know you're in a lot of pain. He's like, do you have any more chips? Do you have more chips in your bag? What are your favorite chips? Do you have any of those in there? My favorite chips are the chips that I took from your bag earlier.
Hey, those were my chips. those were my special hacking chips. And yeah, I think I swing the duffel bag over, and I'm rummaging through, and I'm trying to get really good brand names off the top of my head in 5 seconds. Yeah, these are this. Oh, there's so many weird. Oh, these are weird. So
what's that thing in Shadowrun that's like the thing for friend that's in all of the
Chummer, probably, right?
Yeah, Chummers could be a cool
yeah, Chummer is like the weird gang for like, oh, you're the shark bait, so that I can get through the water. You're my friend. I think there's like this weird like a lot of it looks like Go-Gurt, right? Like just like bright color packaging that peels out paste. The chips are actually like a delicacy. Like, oh, you got individual like fried food. Wow. And so I got a lot of Go-Gurts that are called like Schlushly Red or something. And they all got like mascots on them, and a packet also acts like a trading card or something, where if you collect enough, you can like do battle or something. And then after that, I get to the bottom, and there's like instant ramen where you pull the string and it like cooks the ramen in the cup right there.
Ooh, fancy.
And yeah, so like I think if Sharper's coming back to us, he walks in on me like emptying out my duffel bag and running inventory on all the food I have.
Well, it was also my plan to while you were distracted looking at chips to try like check out the thing on you and maybe just try do some trollish first aid on you, which is probably trying to rip it off. But can I? What does it look like? Is there anything that I can do about it?
So there's nothing obviously technological about this. As you look at it, it feels to you almost rubbery, like a slug would feel, right? And as you kind of pull on it a little bit, right? Very, very painful. We'll get to that in a moment. But you can see as you pull away, there's a little, almost looks like a drill that has extended from the underside of this circle into his wrist, and that's what's causing pain. It's like an anchor, right? Like a fish hook.
So it's like pulling out a serrated IV.
Yeah.
I think Red Rum, he lets go of it and he's like looking at he looks at his chainsaw and then he looks at his like micro SMG as if he's trying to work out which tool would be better for solving this problem with. And yeah, anyway, I guess that's what's happening as Sharper reappears maybe.
When you experience that pain, that sharp moment of pain, you almost pass out for a moment. You have a moment of darkness, right? And you hear a voice call out to you. They're following you. And you're like, kind of fading in and out of consciousness. It's like, they've found you, They're coming for you soon. You should get out while you still can. You can't hear it, but the spirits can, and I can. Your hand is screaming. Then you wake. You kind of come back to full consciousness.
I think as I wake, like there's a weird knee-jerk reaction where like I just start bringing all the snacks, which were like laid out in like a grid of like best to worst and like most, like a weird bar graph, and I drag it all in and start stuffing it in my bag, and I'm looking around like really scared and like ready to move.
Yeah, so I mean, if we've had this moment of blinding pain, I imagine Sharper heard that in the hallway, this noise, and comes in loaded for bear, and there's a troll with a chainsaw kind of looking at the orc who's shoving stuff in his bag.
Yeah, I'm too like scared to worry about the fact that my squeal of pain was a little bit too high pitch.
So Sharper, just from the general availability of fresh meat in the Shadowrun universe and the sort of size and shape of the cuts that were being enjoyed, and the duration of time that has passed, those people had probably resorted to some form of cannibalism. So it would not be untoward to call this level the Cannibal Cubicles.
That's the chapter heading, huh?
That's where Chapter 8, the cannibal cubicles. We're close. What's your plan here?
First of all, anybody hurt?
I think so. You walk up with your hand on your sword or something, and you're like, "Is anyone hurt?" Or
Well, I imagine I kind of burst in because I've heard, the sound of like combat gone right.
yeah.
If you're doing combat right, there are noises like this.
It's actually bad when you take them out in one shot and no noise.
Well, no, I mean, ideally they're coming from the other side, but someone is doing combat right.
I think by the time I see you ready to because when I first see you, I think there's a look of horror on my face. Like, oh, you've come to take my stuff and kill me. And then like after I registered, like, no, wait, you're a colleague right now.
Well, considering nobody was keeping an eye on the hallway, then yeah, I would expect that sort of thing would be surprising.
And after I gather my wits, I kind of have a stiff upper lip, and I'm like, no one's hurt. No, we're all fine here. Did you find a place that we could retreat back to?
No. Can I tell that he's got this damage on his arm?
You can tell I'm in pain. I'm not a very good liar.
Okay. So put the sword away. All right. So
I'm really liking here seeing everybody's like ideas about how to cope with pain and what other ways that people are feeling pain. You can tell that he's in pain. You can tell that this thing is causing him pain. You notice that there's
so I know about the thing.
Oh yeah, it's
Okay.
a big metallic gray slug thing on his arm. Sure. There's no blood coming from it, which is kind of odd. And it doesn't look like anything you've encountered before. This isn't like a high-tech manacle that you're aware of, right? Or any sort of thing that you've seen, I guess.
Doesn't look like a cyber.
Right. It looks like organic, right? But I'm curious, when you see Ratatat in this pain, how does Sharper handle that?
Well, I mean, he's got a bit of a conflict because on the one hand, he doesn't like seeing people in pain. On the other hand, it's insulting to call his bluff on it. I'm not his parent. But if he gets worse, the options degrade. So Sharper decides to take a closer look at it, goes ahead and kneels by him and says, "Let me see it."
I think as he does that, I think I'm going to be like, Sharper, this hand has to come off.
There's a moment where I'm keeping the armor away, and I think as I keep my armor away, it's close to red rum. And then he says that, and I look at him like, no, here, look at it. Don't take the arm off.
So Sharper takes it and he starts up behind the elbow and starts like pushing his thumb down the outside of the muscle to see how far down he can get before the orc flinches.
Yeah.
How far down?
Well, so it seems as if whatever anchors in this is just embedded through the wrist. There's no pain, like it hasn't like burrowed its way down towards his elbow, right? But as you're kind of inspecting his arm and his hand further, you see that this thing, right? It has almost like a surgical precision to it, the way that it looks. Like, even though it's organic and sort of like squishy, it almost has an appearance of something that's been designed.
Sure. So, any chance that
that's probably the reason why I see it's before? I don't think so. I think the only thing that kind of comes to mind is those drones that you saw earlier, and how even though they were completely robotic, they had a look to them that was sort of organic. Even though they were totally metal, this one is like squishy.
Okay. Look, go ahead and look Rat-a-tat in the eye. He's right. About here, I think. And with my thumb, push. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get a heat source. We're going to cauterize the wound. When we're done, you can get a hand vat grown. Won't be able to tell the difference, or you can get a higher utility one. Either way, the choice is yours. But for now, we can't take the risk. You understand, yes?
You're not going to try to cut off the thing itself?
No.
Cut it in?
Not even going to try. Because that's how you trigger that. That's like telling malware to uninstall.
Yeah, that's when
that's when you trigger all its defenses. Not even going to try it.
There's like 1,000 thoughts that go across my face as you say this. It's like, I can't afford a cloned arm. I can't do cyberware. It's gonna mess with my fucking magic. Oh fuck! And then I kind of like stop my mouth and like I'm mumbling, and I calm down. I'm like, heat source. We have to find a heat source. Where?
Well, I think our best bet is to sabotage a copier.
And then I look at you, I'm like, what's a copier?
If we can't find that, we'll sabotage a replicator. Something that's got enough juice and has blades that are designed to cut off the cooling bits.
Just to be clear, that was a statement of, not that I think there are copiers still. It's just that Rat-a-tat's never been in an area where you could recreate something. They never have the utility of that. He's never been in an office. So the idea...
I think that only the most naive futurists believe we'll ever be paperless. Because our arc is not good.
I assume the copier is going to be gigantic. Like just like the weirdest 3D printer in the world.
Well, but you can put all kinds of stuff in it, and it's a copier, not just like Xeroxing papers, but it like copies stuff.
Yeah, so I like the idea of Rat-a-tat never seeing one of these industrial cyberpunk copiers, and then us running around looking for one.
So is that the kind of thing? I mean, what do you think? Is it realistic that there would be that sort of thing around? And do you think I saw one?
I think it'd be large enough for you to find if you hadn't encountered one already. I also think...
Is that a commonplace kind of thing?
I think that there would be one on this floor, right? I mean, that's a cool idea. I love the idea of it's a copier, but like not like what you think is a good, it's like the replicator.
Yeah, it's probably got like, those 3D printers heat up like to a pretty high, like a really high temperature. It's like hundreds of degrees.
Maybe you get a 3D copied hand while you're at it, just to do you something. I think I would be reticent to make you spend your hold from your navigation move on this, because it's like, hey, the thing that's useful is something that's going to burn my hand off. But just to be, not the sort of like malevolent GM who's like, aha, I got you. If you did try to cut through the slug, it actually would set off an alarm. You're right. So I'll just say that right ahead. So you've made a smart decision. So I think what's going to be the tricky bit here is not necessarily finding the copier, but making your way through the cannibal cubicle without, attracting the attention of any cannibals.
Let's fuck up some cannibals.
Or fuck up some cannibals. I'm down with that too, because they're crazy cool. So
it's noisy. We don't need the noise. We have things to do.
Group roles are always tricky here, so I think what I'm going to do is have the weakest link roll for stealth here. Now, I think that could either be Rat-a-tat because he's in pain, or Red Bum because he's a huge troll. Rat-a-tat is a little stealthy fellow, though, so what do y'all think?
I like the idea of Red Rum taking this. Give him something to do. and I think that the way he gets found, the way he gets found will be very entertaining.
Yeah, I was going to say the failed rolls really probably make sense too when I fail.
For sure. Go ahead and roll 2d6 plus quickness for me.
Cool. That is a 5.
We're gonna get to fuck up some cannibals here. Okay. Sweet. So what do you do, Red Rum, that gets you noticed?
I think it's so I assume that Sharper would have it's gonna involve the chainsaw for sure. Okay. I think Sharper's probably if I can say this, has probably given us a little like hand signal, like tactics, kind of like I saw the lay of the land, like there's this is what the room's like, we've got to pass through it. Yeah, like you go this way. And I think instead of listening to any of that, when we get to the door, Red Rum just like ripcords his chainsaw and kicks the door open and just like walks in like, ah!
So the hilarious thing is there's probably nobody in that room but like 7 heads groundhog up elsewhere
behind us.
Yeah, okay. And I also kick open, it's like not the right door, it's the door next door to the room that he told us we were going to. So I just kick open a room next door with my chainsaw operating. Yeah.
I will say you've kicked the door into the right room.
Okay.
To tell you a little bit more, to tell you a little bit more about the door that you've come to, right? This door has actually been painted in a sort of ritualistic manner, right? To sort of say, to give this room some significance, it seems, right? You're not sure who made this painting, but it looks like it's made from crude like toner, right? And like blood maybe and stuff like that. What do you see in this mural that shows you that this room is significant?
So is the idea that it's sort of like nondescript, but the longer you stare at them, the more it makes sense to you?
Sure.
I'm picturing like almost like differently aged blood on this thing, right? Where there's like a really brown blood at the base, and then on top of it, there's like brighter and brighter blood. And like the more I look at it, the more I'm like, oh, I can see like a ziggurat, and like maybe there's someone standing on the top of that, or maybe I'm just hallucinating because of all the pain I'm in.
And he's seeing all that because he's looking at the center of the picture.
Mm.
But what's around the outside is what told Sharper that this was the right room, because they put down a slick of blood and then they put a bunch of Keurig cup lids. And then they put down more blood, more Keurig cup lids. And it's like, this is where the coffee is. We make the coffee here and we need it to survive. And so I'm like, I'm guessing this is where the coffee is.
You're not far off. And Red Rum,
evil craft.
What significant symbol do you see before you just chainsaw this door in half here?
I think maybe it's on the door itself, like right before Red Rum kicks it open, and I think it's a similar thing to what Aaron was describing with it just looks like mess and noise made with blood. And then I think it actually maybe this is even what makes him kick it, is he's looking at it and then it kind of moves around in a strange way to like it's suddenly like understandable writing or something like that. Or maybe it actually says,
I like words. I feel the idea of Red Rum never reading before, but suddenly he can read this door.
Yeah, no, I think it's the only reason he can read it is because it's his name on the door. It's like, and it says his name, and he's like, it's like,
That may be the way that he experiences it, but really it only speaks to his back brain that way because it is the only door on the level that's a double door instead of just a single door, because this is the big door for the copy room of supplies. Everywhere else only has one door on the frame. And when a troll sees two doors together that meet in the middle, there's just this irresistible urge to kick it.
Yeah, it's the combination of both of those things. It's he sees his own name, but also he just really wants to kick the double door open, and it's irresistible.
So Red Rum deals with this Lovecraftian optical illusion in what is probably the best way, all things considered. And you burst open the door, and you see, first in your vision, of course, is the copier, right? And indeed, it's large and capable of recreating physical things, sort of Star Trek style replicator, right? I think what limits this technology in the universe is time, right, and size of things. So, but it can definitely brew as much soy calf as you want, as long as you have materials for it. But you see that somewhere these people have gathered candles. Who knows where they got candles in this office setting? But maybe it's from like the old office like birthday party, right? So it's a bunch of little candles that have been stuck, sort of like an effigy here, right? And so the room is dimly illuminated by like hundreds of little tiny spiral blue and pink candles. And you can smell just enough to sort of kind of cover over and waft over that decaying corpse, sickly sweet smell of death. It's that refreshing, wake you up in the morning smell of soy calf, right? You know, just that great, bitter, acrid coffee smell, bringing you some clarity in these troubling times. But indeed, perhaps unbeknownst to you at first, the 7 pairs of eyes like pop up over the cubicles behind you. You are trespassing on holy land. Dare you defile the holy copier to cut off your own hand in the safest way possible?
Oh, we're not going to do that in the middle of stuff. But I can handle taking the hand off. We'll do that so it's nice and clean. I know the where and the how to do amputation. We just needed the copier so that we can have a hot enough surface to immediately cauterize it. So if there's going to be any sort of fighting, we're going to do that first.
Okay. Well, that doesn't happen immediately. As you come in, you can see the sort of digitization, right? There's like a classic coffee pot, right? Glass coffee pot with a sort of red plastic spout and handle on it. It's about 90% finished. And when it completes, you're going to have a very nice hot surface left in there from the not necessarily coffee, but just the process. But yeah.
So we're better off like the process while it's building is going to be the peak heat, right?
Yeah, that's probably true.
We don't care about the coffee, so we're going to go first. I think the thing to do. First, I think the thing to do is to secure the room if we can. Is it lockable?
So we mentioned they're double doors that just got kicked out.
Now that it's been troll circumvented, what's possible?
Well, you could probably try to fortify this position a little bit, right? What there's office supplies around. What would you kind of propose?
If we have like a island counter in here, have the troll manhandle it over in front of the door and then lean on it. Those two things together seem compelling against human-sized foes.
Okay.
And while he's doing that, I would like to just make sure we're alone in here.
So as you're doing it, can I say something real quick?
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. As you're doing the tactical sweep of the room, and you're having the troll barricade the door, I'm touching the blood on the wall, and I'm turning to you sharp, and I'm like, what else did you see out there?
Oh, It's a dog-eat-dog business. These guys just got a little carried away.
I've heard stories of the salarymen inside Renraku. I never quite believe it.
Well, I don't think that they were as literal then as they are now, but times change.
And so, yeah, now there's like a boogeyman corporate stooge coming to get him. And I think Rat-a-tat just sort of hunkers down in the corner trying
Let's just say, if anybody's drooling blood when they say they want to synergize, maybe bust a cap in them.
So, the room is clear.
That's always been true, but, you know.
Red Rum, you have this island piece of plasterboard set in front of you, right, with a sort of enamel countertop. You can kind of lean at like you're at a speakeasy. When you start to hear in the gloomy darkness, the lights are sort of rhythmically changing, right? You hear red rum, red rum, red rum, red rum.
Do we all hear that, or is he the only one that hears it?
It's quiet, so he's by the door and can hear it. You're still, if you're working on something else, you might not be able to hear it. If you're by the thrumming of the copier, it might not be clear.
I think Red Rum's just like, who's calling my name? Who's out there? He's like, do you know me? Who is that?
So seeing Red Rum act paranoid, I'm remembering the whispers in my mind that said my arm was screaming, and that the spirits could hear it, and he could hear it or whatever. And I'm staring at Red Rum, and he's like, who's saying my name? And I close my eyes, and I open my third sight and look into the astral realm, which in my mind like kind of looks through walls a bit. It looks for the spirits in the area. Right. And so what is the visual that my eyes see as I look at Red Rum and I can see past the doors and out into the cubicles?
So the thing about opening your third eye, right, is that it's not just a visual sensation, right? There comes along with it these other senses that maybe you couldn't exactly call smell or hearing or touch, right? Because it's a little bit different. The colors here are a little strange. It's like purplish green, which is like a color that doesn't make sense, right? And like you see things in like terms of like emotions are more clear than how much light is reflecting off of something, right? But you open your third eye, and it's actually been the first time you've opened your third eye since at least you got this bracelet, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing you're hit with as soon as you enter that realm, that dimension, right, is this piercing scream. This it's like filling every bit of your perception here that you didn't hear before, and that you were the physical realm. And it's coming from your wrist, just so you know.
Am I able to concentrate past anything besides, like, I'm immediately standing up and like holding my arm like ah, but I'm also like looking at the door. Do I see anything like past Red Rum?
How about you roll with willpower to see if you can do that?
Okay.
I think would be appropriate.
Yeah, for sure. Ha! Ha ha ha! It's a 10. Oh. It's my first 10.
Lovely. And a good time to have it. Yeah, so you're able to kind of tune out that frequency, right? That scream. And that kind of maybe gives you a bit more clarity on what that voice was trying to tell you about this screaming hand, right? And it might become a little bit clearer to you now that You're the only one in your party who's acquired this bit of jewelry, right? I mean, you all dealt with the same spikes, the same laser grids, right? Only you got this. And it's screaming on a channel that only you as an astral, as a mage or shaman, right, would be able to detect. So this device is probably some sort of security measure that deals with mages, right? That much you know to be true. But you're able to tune that out and look out into this floor, right? And you're able to see several figures out in the darkness, and the auras that they have that you're able to see, right? They're very like scrambled and like berserk and angry, and there's something about them that's like a little bit less than human.
So I think out in the Barrens, I've seen a ghoul before. I think I've done like an aura reading of a ghoul before. Is this similar? Is this different?
I hadn't thought so until just now. It's very similar. That's perfect. And to be put a finer point on it, a ghoul in Shadowrun is sort of like a magic zombie, right?
Like Zack Snyder's zombies from Day of the Dead or something.
Yeah, so it's like a zombie, but they're also have
intelligent,
they're blind, but they can see in the astral plane. And these zombies love coffee. That's a separate thing.
So I see these spirits and they see me. And like the other thing I'll just establish now in case like anyone else doesn't know, like when you look into the astral plane, you can see it, but also it can see you and it can affect you. Certain things cannot touch you unless you take that step onto it. So I'm sort of like incredibly vulnerable, but I also don't think I can close my eyes because while I'm able to look and like see these spirits, there is still a screaming like voice like on my arm. And I think I get up and like the coffee's at like 95% or whatever, and he's securing the room and he's leaning and I'm just yelling like, cut it off, do it, cut it off. And I'm not sure if my eyes are glowing or you can tell that like I'm going through something, but like I'm immediately like, oh, I don't want this. I don't want this. It's screaming Ashley, and there's ghouls out there who can see Ashley, and I'm never going to hide from them. It needs to come off now.
And additionally, beyond these 7 auras you see.
Oh no.
You see somewhere in this vicinity the aura of another magically awakened being. And the magic that they're giving off is a twisted magic. It's a dark magic. It's a blood magic. Sharper, you had seen a figure sitting on a swivel chair throne. Could you describe them to us a bit more physically, what they might have looked like?
With the guy who was sitting there?
Yes. What does the king of the cannibal cubicles look like?
He had a black suit at first. I thought it was a black suit, but really what happened was he had a suit like any other color. The thing is, it had been drenched in blood so many times that it was only black between the cracks. So it was black, and anywhere it cracked, you could see other colors through it. Because the scab flakes off, right? And he had a smile, but the problem was the muscles under his eyes had knotted so hard that it pulled him into a rictus grin, which is where you can see that a couple of his teeth hadn't fallen out yet, but most of them had been forced out by the fangs that came underneath. So the few regular teeth he had left were only still there because his lips couldn't cover anymore. He can no longer close his mouth.
Wow, that's pretty fucked up.
And yeah, his hair was slicked back. But the reason his hair was slicked back is for the same reason vultures are bald. They're bald because they have to dip their heads into corpses, and feathers get stuck. So everything that he has is just molded back so that he can get all the way into a torso.
Well, your family may have some questions for you if they're overhearing you. But, I will vouch for you.
They game with me. It's cool.
And Red Rum, you hear now in the darkness. You hear them. You hear the voices again saying, "Synergize with us, Red Rum. Synergize, synergize."
I think Red Rum looks over his shoulder and he's like, Papa, what does synergize mean?
And I think that would be a great place for us to take a break.
That's a commercial break.
Commercial break right there. We'll get some biological needs attended to, and then we'll be back at 7:30 or 4:30, whatever that is. All right.
This is going really good, everyone.
check out this 1989 Shadowrun. Pretty cool.
That's so beautiful.
The art in it's pretty rad.
Yeah, at that point, they couldn't guess that by 2018, we'd have supercomputers that we strap near our genitals just for fun. But here we are.
Yeah, I love living in
your friend.
I love living in the future. I always still feel like I've got a pretty good appreciation for all the awesome like gadgets and shit. There used to be this show called Beyond 2000, this Australian science show when I was a kid, and it was like this in the 80s, and it was all about like future technology that we would like have, and then it got to I think then they named it to Towards 2000. Then 2000 came around and they canned the show.
They're done there.
But I don't think we've got half the shit they said we would have, which is a bit sad. I still want a hoverboard real bad.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it really depends on what you would trust humans with.
That's one of my favorite things about engaging in like the earlier editions of Shadowrun. So like they tried to modernize things and keep up with the times when cell phones came out, and they're like, okay, well, I guess we got to have the wireless matrix now. But it's so much fun, like to look back at what the 80s thought the future would be like, and then to like live in that world, you know? I think like
or like Asimov's like 1950s, like 60s future, like is pretty cool too. And everyone's just smoking so many cigarettes.
Well,
because they weren't bad for you.
When I run science fiction, a lot of what I do is, so many things became possible, and then they had to kind of crank it back as far as what's available. So the richer you are, the more super stuff you can have, but by the time you get down to the peasant level, it's not so much more fabulous than it's always been for the peasants.
Yeah,
just because people.
But that's definitely a Shadowrun.
Say what?
That's definitely like a Shadowrun theme too. Is like the poor have to get the big clunky used cyberware, and whereas the rich people have like the vat-grown gene mods and BioWare and stuff. So that's definitely interesting. Yeah, I dig it. What was I gonna add to that?
Well, you have to know how to absorb people's free time and energy, because otherwise they spend it bettering their situation, and that's unprofitable.
Yeah.
So how do you absorb them? How do you keep them busy?
Well, you put them in arcology, and all the money that they spend on their free time goes back to you. So
you got to make sure that they have things that they care about that are spectacular.
Yeah.
And irrelevant.
Right. Like the roller coaster in the mall and stuff like that, right? Yeah, there's lots of interesting themes, and I don't know if this mega dungeon really is the metaphor that it purports to be in some ways. Maybe if more time was able to be spent there. But reading through it, it definitely has some interesting ideas that I find kind of cool, and Shadowrun appropriate for sure.
I'm back.
I love that NPC that you came up with on the fly, Andrew. You came up with something much more sinister than I could have come up with on the fly. So I'll just leave a note to future self watching this recap, right? Like pulling the table is a good idea, and do it because that's fun.
I promise I'm not fishing for X cards.
Well, I mean, I didn't get there, but this is definitely like great, like nightmare fuel kind of character, which is what blood magic is supposed to be, right? So cool. Lou, are you still around? Are you listening?
Yeah, I'm just stuffing my face. I'm here.
Perfectly fine. Just wanted to make sure. I figured that's going on.
Is Author joining us? No, that's Lou. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Lou.
I got confused by the avatar.
So a lot of stuff going on at once. Most pressing, I believe, is Rat-a-tat holding up his arm to Sharper, yelling, "Cut it off! Cut it off!" What do you do, Sharper?
Yeah, just so go ahead and take his arm, hold it by the wrist, put it down on the table, draw the wakizashi, which is the short sword. Because both katanas and wakizashis are slashing weapons, which means the purpose of the length is to extend the cutting surface so that more strength goes further, along the line, as opposed to a thrusting or weapon. So basically, just go ahead and on the count of 3. Ready? 1.
You son of a bitch.
Well, because if you tense up, then we take more muscle. Because basically, what happens here is he just kind of puts the blade right there by the crosspiece, and then all he has to do is pull, and just with the most exquisite, slight downward pressure, it just slides down through meat and bone, because that's what it was built to do.
And I don't think we'll necessarily prolong that idea.
No, well, then we just jam it forward into the heating element.
Yeah.
But the hand
so we just get one jet and bam.
The hand is removed. It's just sitting on the table because of the sort of graceful way that you slice it off. The hand, the arm comes up. There's the spurt of blood, right, that comes up. And so your next move is going to be to jam it directly into the coffee.
No. There's like some sort of hot plate, right? There's like some surface.
I assume like there's like a laser that's making the coffee, right? And the idea is that we push the coffee out of the way and then we throw my stump in.
And really, the idea is that he should be sufficiently surprised. He's not going to feel pain until the cauterization is done, because it's going to take a while for his nervous system to carry news of the damage all the way to his brain.
And I would say this is all happening where we're just now, the camera's on Red Rum and there's just screaming going on.
I was actually picturing the super poetic, the anime blood.
Oh, where like opera starts playing.
The sword comes through and they're like.
I would suggest that we do not take 3 combat rounds to shake him up to make sure that he's sufficiently anime ninja pressurized.
Well, while you're waiting for the blood to fly, no, I'm kidding. I think that this is a motion that Sharper has you've run in your mind, you've prepared for this mentally. This is all happening very smoothly and quickly. So I'm not going to have you roll damage here, even though you've just had your hand cut off. We're going to deal with the fact that you have your hand cut off fictionally, but I don't want you to die from this, basically, right? Because this is being done in a pretty successful way. I want to get to that searing pain after the cauterization in just a moment, because there's a spray of blood, and then there's a spray of coffee. So you have made these beings, you've made them pretty incensed. And Red Rum, these 7 humans come out of the darkness, right? And they're going to charge you. And they're armed with
There's a door up though, right?
Like a barrier.
Well, we closed the door, and then we put the island in front of it, and then he's behind the island.
I thought the door was smashed, and it was just like a barrier that we could see over the top of. That's what I was.
I figured the door was the door lock wouldn't work anymore, but we could still close unless they came off the hinges.
Yeah, have you seen a troll kick a door before?
I really haven't. I mean, there was nobody inside who said they have a cave troll. I mean, there was none of that. I don't.
I'm happy with a barrier. Seems more fun for fighting over. And that we can see them coming. I think it's more cinematic than them. I don't know let's go with that.
Yeah, I'll throw in my vote towards that too. So we can see them kind of looming out of these cubicles, right? Still that pulsing red light. They have eyes that have gone white, and their skin is sort of like a pallid gray color. and they're armed with like a paper cutter blade that's been ripped off of the machine, like letter openers, pens,
glue
like
guns.
hot glue, there's like a yardstick that they've like glued a bunch of like pens to. You're right. So crude weaponry, but the danger here. Now you're a troll from the Barrens, right? And ghouls are something that you can encounter out there, right? Because you don't have the same sort of policing and security that you do in the wealthier neighborhoods. So you're aware of the ghoul dangers and the fact that even a small bite or scratch could potentially lead to you kind of catching the virus, so to speak, right? Now you have dermal plating, and you have like your calcium deposits from being a troll, right? So you have some protection against that, but not a lot, and there's a lot of them. So with that in mind, how are you planning on dealing with these berserk ghouls running at you?
Well, I thought I would begin by spraying my micro SMG at them.
Yeah, that's
over the barrier. That seems like a good beginning.
Perfectly appropriate. So we're just kind of like doing a pretty level spray, trying to get all.
Except he's obviously got it sideways.
Oh yeah, for sure. So a micro SMG for you, that's like the size of a machine pistol in your hand, we're imagining?
Yeah, it's a small gun, a very small gun in his
I like
hand.
the fact that it might be a troll size SMG. So like it's actually like
just a regular SMG.
It's just an of some sort. But it's just like looks tiny in your hand.
Luckily, it has a pretty hairpin trigger because of how large your finger is. So why don't you go ahead and roll? I think that you're close enough and you have enough of a spray that you don't necessarily need to roll to see if you'll hit anybody. It's going to be a roll kind of to see how many you can apply your damage to.
Mm-hmm.
So how about you roll with quickness to see how good your aim is?
That is a 6.
So this would be a great opportunity for us to use that nice little flashback mechanic, right? So I've kind of modded on a little custom move for you. So anytime, once per session, you can get a +1 modifier to a roll if you give us a little flashback of how you prepared ahead of time, what special gear you had, whatever that gives you an advantage in this situation. You can bump that 6 up to a 7.
Cool. Okay. So I think we you want to save it? No, I'm totally going to blow it now. I think we get a flash to like some kind of shanty town out in the Barrens, and I think you see there's just a group of, I think it's you see Red Rum. I think he looks a lot younger. He's there with a bunch of other trolls, and they're all giving each other tattoos. Like they've got these little tattoos. They're quite sweet, like kid drawings, of like a house and like the sun and stuff like that. And then it looks like this quite sweet childlike moment. They're doing some troll art, and then there's kind of all this banging and roaring all of a sudden, and the like iron fence comes down, and there's like about like 10 like pretty like messed up looking ghouls run into the village, and all of a sudden these kids just have like all weapons out. They're like tiny troll kids, and they're just all like and they just like totally like fuck up these ghouls. So I'm using my preparation as in he's had a long life of fighting exactly these sort of creatures in similar situations.
Yeah. So where any other person might have hesitated for a critical moment, you're able to react instantly. So you roll a d6 for damage with your micro SMG.
3.
Okay, so you're going to be able to apply that to half of these guys, right? So like 3 or 4 of them take pretty bad bullet wounds, and enough that they're down on the ground, but maybe not fully dead, right? But so there's still 3 left that are coming towards you, right? And there's one in particular that's at the front of the pack that looks particularly ravenous. But then we cut back to this hand in the coffee pot, right? Well, directly after being removed from that, because we don't necessarily have the budget to destroy a copier, right? Those things are expensive for the film. You've got your cauterized arm, right? The pain kicks in, and your vision goes blurry and black again for a moment. You hear the voice again. I'm just trying to look out for you. That's what I do. I look out for those who have to look out for themselves because nobody else is looking out for them. So this voice has appeared to you one time before, right? It was after you sold out your mother and kept the money for yourself to feed yourself, right? I'm curious, though, how the raccoon saved you, right? When the rat spoke to you so strongly, why did you go to the raccoon?
Because the rat led to burn bridges, right? The rat led to me being like casted out from my own community, and like it ended in the same way I feared it would. That led me to do the selfish act. I was left alone with no one to reach out to, and for all my cautious hoarding of the things I've had, it all ran out, and there was no one left really to turn to. And the raccoon was sort of like the rat says, just burrow deeper, hold on to what you have. There's no real climbing out of that hole with a rat. It's all about just going down deeper and then like reacting badly when the reality is not what you think it is. And the raccoon was my way of climbing out. The raccoon is about strategizing, right? The raccoon thinks for himself, comes up with the plan, follows through. And the raccoon has allies. the raccoon can understand the idea of like, yeah, you can share the bounty. You only need so much. Plus, there's a whole world outside this hole if you can just climb out. And so that's the sort of idea of like the rat is like burrow deeper, take care of yourself, screw everyone else. And the raccoon was sort of like this. I would say sort of like I'm not sure if there was an epiphany or if it was just hitting rock bottom, but it was something that it was a spirit that talked to me enough to climb out. And through that, then I started talking to I reached out to the Navajo Nation or something like that. And I started making connections and I started being like, well, I need a social media presence. That's how I want to do this. Like the raccoon strategizes, and that means having a social media presence.
Yeah, gotta be on brand, right?
Yeah, gotta start Instagramming every day. And so it didn't happen immediately. It was rough. I was still starving the next day, but I wasn't in a trash heap without hope. I had a way out. There was like a sort of beacon I could start working towards.
If you'd listened to me back then, you wouldn't have found yourself in this situation. You're only here because your friend told you that he wanted to help someone out. And where is he off to anyway? There's still time. And it hurts. There's still time. Cut your losses. Find a hole. Live another day. That's my recommendation.
So just curious, is there any holes coming out of this copier room besides the barrier that Red Rum is covering right now?
I think in this moment of pain, you're given a sort of hyper awareness, right? Your body is flooding with chemicals to try to keep your survival instincts in play. Your fight or flight is at that critical moment. You have an opportunity here to lash out physically or to get the hell out of Dodge. And I think if either way that you go for, you're going to have success.
I guess there's no clean way to do this, so I'm just going to describe what I'm imagining is like Sharper helped me cauterize the wound, and then he turns his attention to Red Rum. He's going to keep his unit together. He's going to survive, and so he starts fighting. And like I'm sort of eyes closed, going like talking to the rat to myself, right? Just like muttering to myself. And then I look and I see the hole, and I see my duffel bag like a few meters away, and Red Rum and Sharper are staring at the guys, and I dash and I grab the duffel bag and I disappear into the hole. And maybe there's like a scene where like the ghouls are getting closer and Sharper turns around looking for my help and I'm gone.
Yeah.
I guess like what it's one of those scenes where you think, oh, he's going to disappear, but what it is that I go through the hole and then I'm going to appear outside the barrier behind the ghouls, like pulling out a gun of the duffel bag and start shooting at the ghouls from behind.
Yeah, so here's part of the reason why that's so surprising and why that's able to happen, right? So, Sharper, if you'd seen a hole and you're in this weird place, you probably would have boarded it up or done something to secure that, right? There's no hole here. All there is kind of leaning against a wall, one mirror. And in a way that only can be described by your magical intuition granted to you by the rat in this moment of crisis, are you able to make the irrational decision of leaping into a mirror and finding yourself teleported to another part of the room in a place where you are able to aim at the ghouls and flank them. Lou, I do not know if you were around for our session when Andrew mentioned, or when Sharper mentioned, that on a previous run against Renraku, he'd kind of uncovered a piece of experimental research and development technology known as Project Safe Space. So this was a bit of narrative that Andrew kind of created from the establishing questions. Would you mind explaining for Lou a little bit about what Project Safe Space is all about?
Renraku was experimenting with trying to create interdimensional manipulation based on science instead of magic. So what they did was they experimented with creating an echo of real space through mirrors. So what was visible and perceptible by humans on the other side of the mirror could also become interactive.
Cool.
And they had some success at that and some failure, which was too grisly to report. But basically, as soon as they developed sort of a working possible model, they started trying to weaponize it for, creating sally ports for sieges, or to create, entire bases outside a dimension. Or, the military applications just for ammunition ports alone are breathtaking. So the only reason Sharper knows about that is he was hired by this wealthy family to retrieve a scientist who was part of the experiment gone wrong. And they were studying the anomaly that she caused instead of trying to rescue her. So he managed to get her out, but found out just that much about what they were up to.
Cool.
And that was like 2 years ago.
I totally loved that whole mirror thing without even any of that backstory, but that's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, well, this might be a little confusing for Lou.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't at all. I'm just like, it's magic.
Magic mirrors.
That's cool.
Yeah. Brad, thanks for filling me in.
Now I know like the level of bullshit that I can just like throw at you guys. So I'm curious, Sharper. Were you kind of looking at Ratatat after you cauterized him, or after he kind of had his moment of quiet muttering? Were you looking at the new threat? What was going on with you?
I'm not going to leave the troll alone to guard the front gap, not the front door. Yeah, so as soon as he's done with
That's
that,
good because he's just about to totally kick the barrier out of the way.
So I feel like Sharper needs to move his attention to there. His bedside manner is better served for when there's no bullets and screaming, flesh-eating executives. So, or their staff, either way. You know how it is. Executives make the work. The staff do the work. Either way, if they're flesh chewers, it's a bad scene.
Indeed.
So, no, as soon as he turns away from Ratatat, he's going to grab the retractable longbow, give it a shake so it snaps open, whip out an arrow, and somebody's going to get ventilated. Because that actually puts a lot of pounds per square inch momentum into a single creature when you're firing it with cybernetic limbs at close range.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about the Shadowrun community is people like taking the rules for longbows, which are so lovingly created in this game filled with guns, right? And then like, just exactly how big of a bow could a troll with metal arms pull? And it's like, it's not really what this game, but they love to do it. So
totally making me think of Detritus from the Terry Pratchett books. Have you read those? He carries a ballista, pretty much.
Yeah. And maybe if we stuck Red Rum in like a meat freezer, he'd like kind of figure out some more stuff about life. Terry Pratchett references aside, you have to aim your bow in such a way you're drawing it from its collapsed position. Go ahead and roll with quickness. I'm assuming you're aiming at this lead ghoul that is like...
Yeah, we're going for the alpha ghoul.
Right.
All right. So I rolled an 8, and I'm +1 to hit.
Right. And with quickness, so does that add to...
I don't have any quickness.
Okay. So you're at a 9. You could bump it up to a 10 if you wish.
Does it make a difference?
Well, there'd be a complication involved for you if you don't, which we could kind of workshop here.
Okay.
It's a clean hit.
The limbs are more about damage. Because I got some other things to kick in for damage. Okay, so basically he's got this. This is probably the third run he's done with it. So he upgraded because he used to throw a switchblade at a dartboard in his spare time. So he upgraded to this. But yeah, we'll just say that at first he was having trouble with the snapping it open. So this is the second bow he got because he wore the first one out from like being able to draw it so it would snap open. But he worked that little kink out, even though it cost him a whole bow to do it. But now he knows how, so he can pull it out, have it snap open, and shoot it in round 1.
I love that Sharper is so dedicated to like muscle memory and yaijutsu. He'll like go through a whole bow just to nail down one movement. And I think the benefit here for you getting up to that 10, right, is that ghoul's not going to get... It's going to get ganked either way, but the momentum from it isn't going to be enough to get a good swipe in at Red Rum. So you're able to stop it before it gets to him.
D6 +5 at close range. Do you need damage?
No, I think you probably get it. Even with a 1, you'd kill it.
Yeah.
So what does this look like when the arrow enters this?
Well, we're talking like running, jumping, climbing trees ghouls, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So this guy's like sprinting in and he goes airborne and gets hit right in the center of his chest, which folds him up. So there's this weird cracking sound as his forehead bounces off his knees and he goes flying back into the darkness.
Yeah. For sure. Okay. So that's given you just a moment, enough to, if you wanted to get more shots in, you could, Red Rum. But then you hear more pop, pop, pop coming out from a flanking angle, right? And that's Rat-a-tat coming in with some shots as well. He chose not to be completely self-serving. Did you roll with quickness for that yet? Do you want to do that real quick, Rat-a-tat?
Just to make it all awesomely cinematic, can the this arrow be coming past? It's hitting the guy. Rat-a-tat's there firing, and Red Rum's going to kick the like the barrier towards the things all at the same time. Team up attack.
Yes, combo.
So I think Rat-a-tat, I can't decide on what gun I want to give them. So instead, they're going to go into their duffel bag and pull out some grenades. They're shaped like those footballs, but they have like the tail to make it twirl or whatever.
Whistling.
And he gets those out, and then like he does like a fadeaway shot where he's like, as he falls behind cover and the grenades go off. Or we'll see how this goes.
I hate to tell you this, but you can only do one of those because you're missing a hand.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you for the narrative integrity there.
I think both arms come out, and one grabs the thing, the other one like kind of just hits the bottom, and like he grunts in pain. And he raises up his stump, and he's like, "Oh,"
because this is an awesome team up attack, and you've just been empowered by brain chemicals and perhaps the magic of the rat for a moment. I don't think I'll make you roll for it because I don't want to necessarily see you fail.
No, it's great. I do a fadeaway throw, and then my head hits the desk, and I get a concussion.
Right. Yeah. Or Red Rum doesn't get killed by a zombie, but he gets killed by a grenade.
I kick the barrier, and it like hits the grenade, and like just hits it straight back towards you.
So after this fight, we're going to have to take a minute and be like, okay, so things we can't say. Could you give me a hand? Let's have a round of applause. We're going to have to go through and either cue them up or take them out, depending on what you're playing.
Right.
Well, explosions.
Coming from a guy with robot arms, it's all right. That's okay.
It's all about where you are on the timeline.
Yeah. So, explosion goes off, right? And what's left of these trolls are turned into gizzards and chunky salsa and whatnot, what have you. Your screaming arm or hand is left on that counter.
I have a question, actually.
Go for it.
We talked about the serrated IV, how it was climbing down my arm. When we cut, did we cut that in half, or did we cut like so far down that it like we never even attacked the bracelet at all, or the IV?
It actually wasn't burrowing like in towards your elbow. It was more like burrowing through your wrist.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't very far along. It was just very painful.
Because when Sharper was running his thumb down looking for pain, that's what he was doing, is to see how far it had invaded. We were making sure narratively that we were going to not have to deal with this again.
Yeah, okay.
Unless we screwed up.
No, you clean cut. If you're going to lose a hand for this 7-9 result, then I don't think I want to screw you over further.
Now later we might have, I'm good Rat-a-tat, I'm bad Rat-a-tat.
Right. Which one came through the mirror and which one is still out there?
No.
Got into my hand. It went bad.
Yeah.
The hand grows back, actually. It like regenerates into bad Rat-a-tat.
Speaking of the hand, can I have can Red Rum as like pick it up and put it in his bag when nobody's looking?
You could, but to be fair, then you're going to have this like alarm still going off that you took such great pains to.
I know. I thought that would be funny.
So looking at Red Rum's character sheet and his flags, Sharper, do you say anything to Red Rum as he picks up the hand to put it?
I'm trying to do it surreptitiously as well.
Well, for one, I don't think that flies at all. I mean, I'm not sure that there's anything he does without drawing attention to it, especially if
he's trying. Yeah, he's trying.
Then he's like a mime on a Paris street corner. But no, I guess my question is, have we moved beyond the realm of theoretical to this is something he's actually doing? In which case, yes.
Oh, yeah. He's picking it up and trying to put it in his...
There's a problem with that.
Yes.
Let me see it for a second. So take it, throw it in a corner and say, let's go.
But I thought I could this would look really good on my
go.
He's like stomped out of it. He's like, "You're not my dad." And he like stomped out of the...
So at that moment, turn and say, that one's still alive. Whether it is or not.
It's a little bit like
so that he could like take out his aggressions on it, purge.
Yeah. He definitely
you can take the ghoul's arm. Take the ghoul's arm.
Yeah, he definitely stomps some ghouls.
Yeah. But he obviously has dealt with ghouls enough to know better. You don't want to get any on you. We just don't really have time to have that conversation about, booby trap wizard hands right now.
That's what it was. Yeah, so we don't actually see it, but we hear some crunching and some squishing going along with the troll stomping, right? Yeah, and then this mirror that's behind you, do you do anything with that, right, Tad? Or is that kind of left your psyche now that you've got your grenade? What happened there?
Did Sharper tell me what he was looking for? Did he tell me about the safe room project? I can't remember.
I don't even know if that's something Sharper was necessarily looking for or not. What do you think?
The only reason I made it up is because you asked me to. I mean, okay. I don't know that Sharper would have said, hey, the last time I crossed Renraku, guess what wacky thing? I mean,
yeah,
right.
That's not something that he the thing is, if you go around telling people about secret projects just for funsies to make conversation, that's how you get dead.
Yeah. Jonathan's don't hire you after that. How big is this mirror?
It's probably about the size of like a bathroom vanity. It's pretty small, but just big enough like that your kind of cramped rat-like form could emerge from it, right?
Could I fit it in my duffel bag?
I mean, you could, but it'd be a big glass, round thing. Well, I mean, what thoughts are going through your head when you jump through this hole, right? The rat
I think
guided you to that hole.
Right? The rat, I'm not sure how the theoretical physics work, but the way it looked to my astral sight was that it was like a mirror of desired things or something, right?
Sure.
Like when the rat was really close to taking me over, it was like a portal outside of the arcology that puts me down in downtown Seattle, and I'm out and good and clean and free. But the last second, what I saw was like the backs of the ghouls and an opportunity to save my friends, my coworkers. I don't know. We're not that close. And so I feel like it's a very powerful thing. But maybe the idea is that none of what that was computes. Like after Rat-a-tat stands up from throwing his football grenade thing, that he can't hear the rat because he's defied it, and he's in the clear and free, and he sort of just compartmentalizes whatever that was and puts it away.
I think there's the shot of the three of you, like your feet kind of going by this mirror, right? And then, like, after you've walked by, there's kind of this shot of like a Seattle sidewalk, right? There's like a little rat that's like staring at like through, and then kind of scuttles off into an alley, right? So we'll leave that.
Rat's your Goblin King.
Yeah, basically. Okay, cool. So here we have an opportunity to either spend a hold to find a place to rest, or we could keep on navigating through, see if we can accumulate enough hold to find Karen. What do we think?
I think we should find a rest spot, because now both me and Sharper are injured. And as much as I am sure that Red Rum can solo run this entire thing, we would like to survive.
I got a door knocker, so give me 1 second. Think about that.
I don't think I got hurt, did I?
I'm sorry. I just was trying to figure out, did you heal from the flamethrower yet?
Yeah, because he said that we could reroll our hit dice, so I did. I mean,
okay.
I'm not sure that translates to a normal like hour rest, but
well, then I'm just injured.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not sure. I mean, do you have actual hit point damage?
Yeah. No. Yeah. I took 5 from the bracelet or whatever. I'm at 3 hit points right now.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's fine for us to find a place to rest, but I want to get out of this area first.
Yeah, and that's what the hold would let us do, right? Is it let us be like, okay, we find a vending machine room.
Yeah,
somehow.
I'm thinking I want to get off this floor if we can.
Yeah.
Which is a bit more than just trying to find a quiet place that has like a double door that we could secure, so to speak. So yeah, if you guys are, what do you think?
I think before we navigate onto another floor, I would like to rest up.
I reckon the hold's pretty powerful, right? The hold, if we spend the hold, it will be a cool, safe place that we can like rest at. It could even potentially be like upper floor or something, right?
Yeah, actually, if you want to go ahead and spend that hold, Lou, why don't you just tell us what this safe place looks like?
Awesome. I think maybe we're kind of walking through these holes, and we can probably hear like more ghouls around us as we're moving through them. And I think we see as like Red Rum's pretty wide in these corridors are mainly made for humans and stuff, I guess. And his shoulder, they're walking past this line of vending machines, and his shoulder like hits the side of one, and it was kind of like it swings away, and there's like a little, it's a secret door behind or some sort of compartment or something, and they I think they squeeze into it, and there's a ladder, and they go through some little like things and kind of find this I guess maybe it's something that was put here like in part of the plans, like some secret part of the plans, and maybe I think it looks like somebody's been staying in here, but they're gone now. Maybe someone was hiding, like managed to not become a weird ghoul, and they were hiding in here, but they're gone now. So I think we're able to pull the vending machine back and kind of hang out in this little like safe space for a while.
Yeah, and lots of tasty chips for you too.
Yeah, totally.
So we can take a quick moment here to re-roll our hit die. And just as a reminder, that basically means for you level 2 folks, you're going to roll a number of dice equal to 2 plus your body modifier. So basically, Rat-a-tat, you're going to roll 3 and keep 2. Red Rum, you can roll 3 and keep 3. Sharper, I don't remember what your numbers are, but I think you do. And if it's better, keep it. You don't have to lower it if you get a low result.
Is it D6s?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh no, what did I do?
I totally just went up to 16 HP, a respectable trollish amount of hit points.
Fueled by chips.
I imagine his neuroadrenaline system got to run the chainsaw, and that stimulated his bulk enhancers.
Yeah, totally. It's like has a little what do you call those what are those little motors called, like, you know, that you can power, like a dynamo? It's the chainsaw's got a dynamo in it that's charged something. Yeah.
And so, Aaron, you even got you got boxcars out of that, huh?
Yep.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah, so we have like a little moment of quiet after dealing with some cannibals. We're not quite out of the cubicles yet. But how do you spend this time?
Well, one of the things that's important to Sharper is this is the time for bedside manner. Let me take a look at your arm. Any side effects? Any remnant of the intrusion?
I think something I do try, and I'm just curious. I feel like this is like the student who's like asking the teacher, you forgot to assign homework? Where I'm like, the idea of magic in this world is that like a human has essence, and their complete original body has spirit energy running through all their limbs and stuff. And now part of my limb has been chopped off, which means part of my essence is left back in that copier room in the corner. So there is a moment with like my other arm. I don't have like mana ball or anything like that, but I reach for that energy. I reach for that energy to see if there's any side effects. Like, do I feel weaker? Do I feel like, I don't know, like I'm expecting something, I guess.
I would say you're absolutely correct about the nature of essence and a person's being tied to their magic, and that's part of the Shadowrun lore of, you know, when a mage gets like a data jack, they're like turning their back on their magic or whatever, right? But I think another big component of magical strength is tied to your faith, so to speak, your belief in your magic system. And so when a mage encounters some big failure, right? Personally, professionally, something like that, that can cause a crisis of faith in their magic power. And that can be just as damaging as having a limb chopped off, right? So you've gone through a very particular tribulation with your magical beliefs, right? You've kind of encountered this conflict, these two warring magical forces. Do you think you've come through stronger because of it? What are your thoughts there? Tell us about that.
I'm not sure how many runs Ratatat has done between hitting bottom barrel and deciding that he's going to fight for himself. Like, this could be like the first run since that or something, right? Like, but the idea that with my back against the wall, I retreat to maybe just abandoning everything again was unnerving. And yeah, Renraku Arcology is a extraordinary situation, but at the same time, if I'm going to stay in this business, I can't be thinking about reneging on contracts every time some mage decides to put a planter cyborg bracelet on me.
I wouldn't mind actually even trying to like hit your boasting flag like along that line. I think maybe like Red Rum says something like are you are you gonna go home now? You're like pretty
you gonna throw it in?
Yeah, like, you know, trying to allow you some machismo or bravado, or say how you will like come back from that.
So yeah, I think that like there's a moment of doubt, right? Like how can I have questioned myself when now that I'm past it all, it doesn't seem like that much. And then Red Rum's like, "Oh, you're just gonna go home now?" And then it's like, "Oh, hell no! I'm Rat-a-tat, the triple threat. You guys would be screwed if I left you. You wouldn't know how to get out the front door. I have to be here to unlock every single door for you guys because none of you can touch a keyboard. Let alone like the weird ghoul king that's probably chasing us."
I think Red Rum's super impressed. He's like, my gang doesn't normally we don't normally have anyone but me in it. But he's like, you should be in my gang with me. Do you want to be in my gang?
Let me see the back of your jacket.
He turns around.
It
says gang of one on it.
Yeah. You know what? And he gets like some paper and a marker out. And he rewrites it, right? It says gang of 3. And then on the bottom it says triple threat. And he looks at it and he says, "Tell you what, we get to your room 1816 or whatever, and I'll use my portion to make the fanciest jacket with this emblem on it."
Yes. Red Rum makes like a that happy Wookiee sound. He's like,
oh, it's terrifying. It like shakes the room.
Somewhere there's like 4 ghouls going, what was that?
I think Rat-a-tat turns to Sharper. And he does ask, maybe he takes the approach of like Bushido philosophy so that it doesn't sound like he's going back on what he just told Red Rum. But he is like, is there ever a point where when Senpai gives you an order that might be just too dangerous to complete?
Well, the good news for you is you're not Bushido, he says, and he puts his hand on his shoulder. Once you accept a master, you have to do what you're told. Because death is not the worst thing that can happen to you. Dishonor is. When you face something that's worse than death, you have decisions to make, don't you? Now, the good news is this is a moment in time. So right now, you could consider that this, he says, pushing his thumb in, is a good anchor point for a cybernetic. This here is where the weave would connect your neural network to whatever would be attached. But with VATS, you can extend your hand there. But you know, for sculptors, when they're carving stone, Michelangelo said that he was freeing the shape that he saw within the block. This here, this is not the final shape in the block. Not this. Grabs his shoulder. Not this. Grab the back of his head. But the final shape in the block is this and this. Tap him on the heart, tap him on the head. You have yet to chisel those loose. So don't worry too much about the rough stuff and the details.
There is like a weird moment, I think, where Rat-a-tat sees him sort of like, because going down to cyberization instead of doing like a clone grown limb would be definitely putting the totems at a further reach from him. It'd be more about like utilitarian survivability. I bet you need a less calorie intake if you have cyber limbs.
Really depends on the interface.
Yeah,
because there's some better interfaces, others. I mean, some of them got neural algal connections, which actually are created artificial life, which transmit at a different speed. I actually put way more research into this than I needed to. Here's the thing. Don't get too confused, because this meat you're wearing is a machine too, and it's going to age out. It's going to require upgrades. But that's not the real question. The real question is how much life force it can hold. And that's not something that's about the specs. That's something that's more about when you find your limits, how seriously you are compelled to take them. And that's about focus.
So instead of staring into like the existential crisis that is considering cyberization for me, I steer the conversation. What is the news network called again? I'm sorry, can't. You are muted some other way.
How about now?
Yeah.
There we go. Cool. Well, great. That was a great time to be muted because that was an awesome discussion. KSAF Seattle News is the news agency.
So I guess I keep turning back. Like, is KFCF a worthy master to stake your honor on, Sharper?
Absolutely not.
And then I'm like, so what are we doing here?
This is piecework, son. This is just a piece of work to get you along. This is payday business. Now, when you talk about picking a master, that's all about when you look beyond yourself into that great white food chain in the sky and choosing which totems will embody you. That's your master.
The idea of paycheck money, right? Piecework is reassuring to Rat that he knows that work. He taken that work on a lot, and so he can nod to himself like, yeah, this is just piecework. Apparently, piecework in my life sucks and it's horrible, but like, yeah, this is just piecework. I can make do.
Yeah, the question is what your capacity is. It requires a certain depth of chutzpah to undertake something as nuts as this. So congratulations on that. Clap him on his good shoulder.
Yeah, I think there's like a cough. It's like, yeah, well, I'm the triple threat.
Otherwise, you'd be out popping pimps in an alley. So I guess take pride in your price. Take pride in the price you pay to stand where you stand.
But there's a second where it's like, I bet pimps have easy money to take. And it wouldn't be as nearly as dangerous. God damn it. Where is Synchro? This girl better be worth it.
Probably slapping pimps in an alley. Anyway.
As a player, I'm loving this conversation, but Red Rum totally just filled himself up on snacks super quickly and fallen asleep. While this there's like you start to hear this big resonant like snoring.
You know, I think he's got the right idea. There is some sense to giving the chase time to die down, and we're not on a timetable. This is as good a place as any to catch some rest. Don't worry.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Do you even sleep anymore?
That's personal.
I think I take out another talisman, and I'm looking at. You said there's like vending machines in here.
I think this is like the headquarters where like the snacks are kind of hidden to be refilled.
Yeah, well, this was somebody's like hideout. I think I'm picturing like it's like a readout or whatever. Like there's shelves with heaps of stuff from the vending machines and supplies and all sorts of stuff. It's like it looks a bit like a a crazy person apocalypse bunker.
So not only is Red Rum asleep, he's also half buried in wrappers.
I'm looking over the wrappers and I want a good brand name.
Nerps is the classic Shadowrun.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I
forgot about Nerps.
More satisfying one.
Soy krill. Okay. Yeah. I think there's a like I'm looking at all these wrappers covering Red Rum, and they say like Nerps krill bar or something like that. and it's just like shitty krill covered in chocolate or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But it's like protein, right? And like as far as like vending machines sustenance in like a crunch corporate world, I bet it's like the go-to.
Did you know that those will also work as candles?
You can light them on fire and throw them in a dumpster. And they have like this mascot that actually I don't know exactly what krill is. So okay, yeah. So there's like this shrimp
things.
yeah, shrimp little mascot with like a suit and tie on in the branding, right? Because this is definitely like performance enhancing chocolate covered krill from Nerps. And it's got like this guy with like this shrimp with a tie on and like greased back hair and a briefcase. And he's giving you the thumbs up. It's like leave the competition in the dust or something. It's like the back of the thing. And he's looking at all these wrappers and he's looking at this stockpile and he's got his talisman out and he starts like shaking it like the Rainmaker kind of thing. And he's gonna see how much spiritual essence, just because we have a downtime in like an hour. Like, yeah, let's try to summon something. And I'm gonna see if I can summon the spirit of a candy bar, please.
The spirit of a Nerps krill bar.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Because that's the most awesome thing ever. Of course you can. Tell me a little bit what your plan is to do with the spirit.
I guess. I guess
how
like,
this might very well be your last session. Is there some sort of thing you're angling for there?
I mean, like what I'm angling for is I don't actually have mana spells, right? And like the only like damaging thing I have is sort of the spirits. So I just want to be armed. I want to fill the cylinders of my gun and be ready for it. Otherwise, also it's a spirit of food, which I feel like on some level Rat-a-tat really empathizes with.
Yeah. And I will say too, just because you're not able to attend next session doesn't mean that Rat-a-tat can't be there, so to speak, right? Or that you won't have a spiritual backup, right? I'll leave that up to you. Just so you know the options on the table.
Actually, I feel like RPing this out and doing everything is going to leave me like where we were like the first session, where it's like, okay, you have a krill shrimp at your beck and call, end of session next week, whatever. So maybe the answer is we get some rest. We just we don't need to resolve it, and we get to a more interesting endpoint than another one where like, oh, he made a roll to 7 and 9. Come back next week to find out.
Which we might still end up doing, perhaps more based on the navigation. But I love the idea of the spirit, so I want the spirit to exist. So I think we should go through with the ritual.
Okay, because I was like sort of like in my brain, it was like a weird optimization thing, right? Where it's like, oh, I have downtime, I should summon.
It's a good instinct to have.
And what's around here, candy bars. This seems good. But yeah, so Nerps krill, his name is Kerp. And what I'm looking for is a scout info, like someone to be my eyes that doesn't like make me vulnerable to other magics, right? Like I can do astral sight.
The spirit can probably see out of like every other vending machine in the entire building, you know, because there's those things in there.
It's got that magical connection to him. So here's what I think would be perfect, right? The great thing about this navigation move is that it's pretty wide open.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're using Kerps as a way to sort of scout and guide, we could just call that this is you navigating further, right? With using your willpower, right? Well, charisma, we'll say, because you're bargaining.
Yeah, technically, yeah, summoning is charisma.
And the reason why I kind of want to put this on the table now is because I don't think we have enough time necessarily left, because I'd like to do like a little bit of debrief and feedback at the end. I don't think we necessarily have time to resolve the full result of the navigation, and I really love the king, the cannibal king, right, being here, and I don't want him to be gone yet.
Right.
But I don't want to necessarily spend too much time on him next week. So if we can leave it with a cliffhanger, if that's the kind of result we get, I want that to be on the table.
So let's see so Kerp is going to help us navigate to floor 18. Let's see what the result is, and then I'll take the consequences of that result, however it falls.
Right. 2d6 plus charisma. Let's see what we get through that.
Yeah. 8.
All right, perfect. Because that helps us probably in the best way, because that's going to give you an additional hold. So we only have to get one more hold before we can find Karen. So again, just to be clear with this,
I thought we were sitting on 2 and we just got 1.
Sitting on 2, spent 1 to get to the shelter.
That's right. I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
So we'll say you've made it to the 18th floor. Then again, 18th floor in the ziggurat is still a pretty huge area. Yeah. But now, you've been tracking them with these little devices, right? You're getting closer. The beeps are becoming more rapid. And now you're just worrying about the horizontal plane, about locating them. So that's going to be quicker, which narratively means, hey, you only need one more hold to find them. But that's mixed result now. Is going to be us still navigating through these floors, and I think that's the sort of the cliffhanger we have, right? So Kerps is navigating you through these halls, right? And he's sort of like got this kind of swaying motion because he's like a krill, like swimming through the water.
He has a watch on his hand and he checks it.
He's very high strung.
One of his thumbs is like permanently up as well.
He's kind of high energy, right? And he's like, "Oh man, this is bad juju out here. You know that, right? Oh, lots of bad stuff out here. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Ooh, the magic. It's killing my vibe, man. It's killing my vibe. Real buzzkill out here. All this dark magic.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Cutting into my productivity.
Can't synergize properly.
So where I just want to pull the table here. Set the scene for me.
I have an idea. If we're looking to like wrap on a cliffhanger,
right? This is the we're leaving it at the showdown between you and the Cannibal King, as described by Andrew. The slick back hair, the bloody dark suit, the too many sharp teeth, the rigor mortis smile.
I think we get to like a T section, right? And like to the right, it's like some stairs heading up, and then to the left, we see the Cannibal King, and he is next to this area that says like classified or something, and it's got like person reports on like this clipboard, but they're all metahumans, right? And Krill is saying, your target's up these stairs. Come on, productivity, stay on schedule. And the Cannibal King is just laughing in like this dark, menacing kind of way. And maybe it's got like a lighter.
Or can he be chewing on your hand?
Oh, that's actually really good. I like that a lot.
Perhaps just slowly licking between the fingers.
Okay, maybe this is too much. Tell me if it's too much or whatever. But like the idea of stripping like the finger bone, or whatever.
Gosh.
Sorry. No, enough.
Let's stick with licking. I think that's just creepy enough for me. Gloving of the riblet.
And so I think there's a scene where Ratatat says, Kerp, take them where they want to go, and then I pull out like a lead pipe from my jacket and walk down the hallway towards the Cannibal King.
So I have a feeling, Andrew, that wherever the Cannibal King goes, because of this presence of twisted magic that he is so engorged himself in, right? And even more in this situation, he's taken advantage of everything, right? And you notice when you look at him, right, that he doesn't have cyber eyes. He just has kind of crazy looking maniacal eyes, but it doesn't necessarily seem to be a servant of the quote unquote master, right? So tell us a little bit, what does this aura look like? How does the very presence of the Cannibal King being at this T intersection affect this otherwise benign and sort of standard cubicle office area?
Well, the thing that we don't know, because we don't read the corporate code and the barcodes that come with the scanner that all legit visitors get, so that they can just be, audio touring their way through. What we don't know is that this office area was dedicated to bioweapon studies. So really, the whole presence of him here is not connected to everything else that's going on. In fact, it probably creates a dark pocket, because instead of being connected to what happened elsewhere, it was just a matter of a security breach and a virus got out. So the way that this is affected is that he is an active infection in the healthy body of the arcology, and it's just a matter of time before the white blood cells and the fever burn him out. But that requires the rest of the body to be healthy enough to do it.
Okay.
That's a really good metaphor.
Yeah. I need to start thinking more metaphorically. I think it'll think of motivations. Yeah, so there's like, I'm imagining like the walls are like the paint is sort of like blistering, right, from his presence and things like that.
Well, also the lighting. I mean, there's got to be like 16 different emergency lighting patterns that the employees have drills so that they know what means what. And the red pulse basically is a bioinfection, and the red light always runs towards the exit. So an employee would know, biohazard, follow the red light to the exit. And so he is standing at the nexus of where all the red lights go because he doesn't want us to leave.
Okay. So, Sharper, you see the lone samurai warrior heading off to a fateful doom with his lead pipe. Red Rum, you see this member of your gang, right, who's going off on this suicide mission, or just after you became the gang of three, right?
I mean,
oh no,
I'm kind of caught between two things. One is, are we desperate enough that we need a suicide ploy? And two, is he bad enough to buy us anything with a suicide ploy? I mean, it would help me to have a reason to suspend my disbelief for why Sharper wouldn't be like, really? And grab him by the back of the neck and drag him along,
Well, maybe that's what does happen after the cliffhanger. Is this just a cliffhanger? It works well as a cliffhanger that he's walking off to his death, if that's what we're creating.
I mean, I guess I wouldn't necessarily ask what course of action you take, but it'd be good to know what's going through your mind. And I would say, in terms of like, what's his power level, right? I hope that by seeing like these not only like technological viruses that are happening here, but like the physical affectation that his very presence is making on the space indicates that he's a pretty serious threat, right?
Well, I'm not so much concerned about the threat he poses, as I'm wondering, I mean, okay, so Ratatat feeds himself to him, but how does that help us? I mean, unless Ratatat's got like a bomb or something.
Oh, right. Well, I mean,
I can tell you how Rat-a-tat plans to attack.
I mean, let's hear it.
I think that this is a very big crunch culture, right? And like people aren't really going to leave their desks very often. So actually, I think secretly among the light racks, there are lights that give off UV lighting. And one of the things about ghouls is they don't like sunlight. And so I think there's like a quick thing where he gets like his deck, and it's like hung like a keytar basically at this point, big old strap, and he sort of just like taps it behind him or whatever with like the pipe and no fuck, he only has.
I was going to say that has to be on the other side.
He has a pipe underneath his chin. He's hacking on the deck or whatever.
Can he do one-handed hacking? Is he that much an aficionado of say, exotic artwork?
Yeah, there's a glove, right, that I put on, and it extends my hand to a second hand, and I can touch type.
Now that's advanced hacking.
I don't know that my disbelief is that heavy, but we don't have any hooks that are sturdy enough for it yet.
So I think what I would say now, of course, the dice kind of have their own way, right? I think it would be very difficult for Rat-a-tat to fight this guy alone, but I think that he could give you enough time that you would be able to sort of get to your destination without having to worry about him.
How Sharper suggests an alternative. If you charge him and get mowed down, that does none of us any good. But I am confident in your ability to annoy him, get his attention, and compel him to chase you through a series of booby traps.
Like back through that elevator we came through?
No, you were talking about the UV lights, and I think that's a good idea. And I think that we can make a maze of lights where he would have to chase you, get successively weakened until you can escape him. Because while he's burned and bleeding, his senses will lose you, and you will be able to escape at least his territory. Now,
I like that idea a lot.
You can be fast and nimble in a way that the rest of us can't. And I believe in your ability to trigger these things. I wouldn't let you go if I thought you were going to your death. But this is something that I believe you are uniquely qualified to do.
I like that Sharper wants to honor his sort of like desire in a way that won't necessarily cost him such a sacrifice. How about you, Red Brum? What sort of words do you offer or ideas to your triple threat gang member?
Yeah, I think Red Rum would be pretty reluctant to let him go and get eaten by a cannibal dude and just walk off. Well, nice knowing you. Yeah, that's, I mean, I kind of just imagine Red Rum's probably like, yeah, says to Rat-a-tat, he's like, yeah, man, your plan's dumb. Go with the plan where you don't die. That's a better plan than your one. Even I know a plan that dumb when I hear it.
And really, we can take several hours, and between Red Rum's strength and the technological know-how of our triple threat, we can get a number of those panels out, positioned, and we can sort of say, here's plan A, here's plan B. Regardless, get him into this room and give him the works. And while he's juicing, it doesn't matter if he lives or dies. He's Renraku's problem. What matters is that you have the space to get out.
As you're saying this, I'm like visualizing this as a montage, right? I'm seeing this all happening. And what I want to do here, Aaron, is give you just full narrative control of this is your epilogue, right? So you determine if you want to, you can roll a d6 and use that fiasco style to determine if this is good for you or not. Die of fate style if you want to, but you can be as successful here or as unsuccessful here as you want, just in the spirit of epilogues.
So I think like I want to treat it like a Blaze in the Dark kind of thing, where I walk at it like a Lone Samurai kind of thing, and that's when we do the flashback to Sharper being like, "That's a terrible idea. That's a horrible idea." What we need to do,
we have a little record scratch. The music.
Yeah. And then we have the montage of Red Rum taking down UV lightings and stuff. And then like we have the monologue of like, you're fast, you can go into small spaces. What you need to do is get him to follow you. And then we have like this weird mousetrap kind of being set up.
Can we play the AP music in the background when that's happening? Dun, dun, dun,
dun. And so it's revealed that it's not necessarily like a suicide run, fight to the death. I'm going to somehow keep up with the Cannibal King with one arm. It's more, hey, chummer, I heard your breath stinks like a dead ass or whatever.
Finally, a use for that massive 16 meg download of Yo Mama jokes.
Just like, yeah, I had 2 hard drives. One was for hacking. One was Your Mama jokes. And like, I just like, it's got like I got my hairnet on and it's just streaming to my consciousness of like constant Your Mama jokes. And like, yeah, we got a UV lighting and it's sort of like a mousetrap kind of thing. And I like the planning the montage and like also the idea. And I was trying to figure out like your insinuation, Andrew. I'm sorry, Sharper. When you were saying escape, did you mean like escape arcology or just escape the Cannibal King?
I think it's unrealistic to think we'll meet up again.
Yeah.
However, I do think that if you can escape and take the news and the footage of what we have so far, then you can leverage it to get paid by the news station. If they give you trouble, sabotage the shit out of their works. So get paid by that, you come out even. But yeah, at least escape his territory. But I think by the time this is done, we can find something to blow a hole in the side of this arcology. You can find a way out.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I think if we're saying like synchros right here, I like hit him on the shoulder with my one good arm. I'm like, you got me in this, motherfucker. Go find your girl. And then I run off, right? And it's sort of like a weird circuit, right? As much as this guy has magical energy, he just wasn't able to stop our planning or how good we were with our secret room that he couldn't find. And we do a circuit, and like he keeps on getting hit by like UV blasts, and it's like shotgun things instead of like a sustain effect. And there's also a moment where I even wrap back around back in that area, and there's like some flyers, and I like grab them and shove them in my duffel bag and keep running. And it's not like a quick thing. It's just that like the cubicles have like a lot of thin walls, and the desks have like small areas underneath them where you can like crawl into other office spaces. And it's a lot of just like face first dives underneath desks and coming up out the other side. And he starts like shredding desks to get at me and everything, but that's where we hid the UV lighting or whatever. He shreds it open, and that's when the UV light hits him, and he just like screams, and like the mana around him like disrupts the floor and shit. And I keep running, and then like, yeah, sure, fuck it. And then I'm start running out a window, or no, it's on lockdown. Fuck.
We could definitely leave that like ambiguous, right? You know, like.
Well, I like.
Unless you want to put a finer point on it.
No, that's right. Andrew and them are not finishing this guy off, so it's just about me escaping.
You did find. You mentioned that the Cannibal King was looking at this wall of portraits of metahumans, right?
Yeah.
And part of your initial deal with getting in with the Orc Underground was getting information about them. So I think we could see you kind of pull out this like hard drive cartridge or whatever that has like that info. So we could have you meet up with them or something else.
I think it's very much just a sort of thing of like constant wear and tear. My lights just blinked. It was weird. The Cannibal King's coming for me. Constant wear and tear, and then I get that hard drive and I shove it in, and like he is just destroying office things, and I'm riding down the escalator heading out to drop off my info and pay off my debts and pay rent and go on to the next piecework.
Love it. So
And you guys get
got
to
your share.
keep Kerp. He's your new guide.
You got another use of Kerp for you, and if you all find Karen and Jason, then you're going to be able to get, your share of the money from them. And also, there's still an $8 million door nearby.
Red Rum doesn't know or care about Karen and Jason.
Right. Spoiler alert, I'm going to just put them together. the doors where they're hiding behind.
I assumed so, but I'm happy pretending that they're totally unconnected.
But that's lovely. No, I love that. And I love the sort of creative but yet like zany. I just love like the idea of like sliding down the side of the escalator, like doing like an 80s like gang sign or whatever.
Yeah, very, very Hackers with Angelina Jolie or whatever.
Yeah,
somewhat less impressive when you only do it with one hand.
Yeah.
You're never gonna let that down. There's gonna be like a postcard being like round of applause. I mean, whoops or whatever.
No, man, the idea is you get paid more than enough with this job to get yourself some more digits.
Yeah.
Well, maybe now.
Can I just add a tiny little thing? As he's like going down the thing, you see the cameras on Ratatat's back, and there's a sticker on his back that's got really messy like troll handwriting that says "Gang of 3" on the back of his shirt.
Yeah.
This is a hell of a send off. Shit,
and,
guys.
And now you can finally tell Sharper what the sound of one hand clapping is. Finally achieve enlightenment. So let's do a little bit of feedback real quick. We can do roses and thorns. So positive things, I just want to say, Aaron, it's been a really great experience playing with you. I've really enjoyed meeting you and playing with you for the first time. I personally enjoyed Ratatat as a character a lot. I kind of struggled with thinking I was giving him too much spotlight at times, and I was like trying to find ways to get on other people, but Ratatat was just so compelling that sometimes I had difficulty with that. So that was a good thing, a good struggle. I always like that. Anybody else have any? I like to start with roses. I know other people like to start with thorns, but let's start with roses. Anybody else have any positive things from the session, things that you liked?
I thought we were pretty good about Spotlight this episode. I feel like the first two sessions I kept on hacking and I kept on like sidelining my character while they were doing other things. Like the first one is like I was stuck in this van while they took out droids.
You also did have the most horrific thing happen to you, so it kind of makes sense to like spend a little bit more time on. And I guess Andrew and I both decided we needed to like cut your hand off, so it made sense that you were kind of that was kind of a little side quest, like the let's go cut our friend's hand off side quest.
And even though I did the astral thing today, I didn't feel so secluded. I got to play around with flags a lot. It was sort of like trying to make sure I was hitting flags. And it was fun. It was a good session. I think also there was a benefit of coming out into a scenario. Like the cannibal cubicles was a thing that we could walk around and explore. And the parking garage was kind of a thing we could explore, but it didn't have a hook. And like the security terminal was the matrix is something to explore, but the security terminal wasn't inside a scenario necessarily that was something to explore. And so there was something very like compelling about, it's the cannibal cubicles. And it's like, okay, we're in the cannibal cubicles zone. Let's look around. There's like a copier. They love coffee. And it was fun to like sort of explore that kind of stuff. And yeah, that was good.
Well, really, we had two objectives, and one of them was to get past it, to get out, which is like the time-honored video game solution of all levels is at some level get out.
Yeah.
But the other one, really, I think what added the urgency to it was having to do medical attention. This whole thing could have been much simpler if we'd just had proper med packs.
Yeah, where are those steroids again?
Basically, I mean, if we'd had what I think of as a med pack, that'd be like slice your arm off, put the patch on it, on we go. But we had to cauterize it, and I don't know what our equipment was, so I was like, well, we have to find something in this level that will do that, which really kind of drove us into a place where we had conflict from there, and so really having a result where you had something on your hand and then we chopped it off, that was like the main focus of our adventure.
And I'd like to thank you all as the players for that, because that was very player driven, and I was so excited about it, and it really turned out interesting. I think definitely one of my huge roses for this session is something that's not really necessarily in my control, and that's how creative you all are as people. Particularly, Andrew, I want to call out how one of my weaknesses as a GM is I'm not very good at coming up with NPCs on the fly. Like, I have an idea for one, but it's hard to like kind of crystallize them. So last series, you came up with the fixer Johnny Novocaine, like at the drop of a hat, who was like the raddest person ever. And you just kept throwing out details like, okay, well, they have like an androgynous sort of appearance. They have this like bright yellow trench coat, and they have red luchador boots. And I'm just like, he's just like going with it, and I could see this person. And then I was like, okay, so what's this? You saw this figure. All you had was he was a figure. And you came up with like something straight out of like a creepypasta, which was incredible. So thank you for that, for sure. Yeah. How about you, Lou? Do you have any roses for anyone?
Yeah, I'll give Aaron some roses as well. It was nice to play with you again, dude. And I like you do lots of good kind of like showing that you're enjoying what other people are doing and stuff, which I try to do too, and I do appreciate that.
I have a question. I notice everyone mutes when they're not talking, and I'm just not in the habit of that. Is my laughing disruptive?
Oh, it wasn't overbearing laughter at all. Yeah, it just I think you kind of just get used to driving. Sometimes I unmute myself for a small laugh because I want to show, like, or let people hear for a second. But no, I didn't. Unless you've got crazy noise going on in the background, which you didn't, it was totally fine. I think everyone's just in the practice of muting.
Yeah, that back channel thing is difficult because I feel like it's super vital for like interactions, right? And one of the really great advantages of face-to-face versus like online, because part of the problem is like if two people are talking at once, or if one person's like laughing, like I love to hear a good laugh, or because I think it really reinforces that what we're doing is fun. But they'll like dominate the screen and cancel out everybody else's audio, and it's like just kind of
I try to be intelligent about when I insert my but no, dude, it wasn't. I didn't. I think your laughing timing was good. It wasn't throwing
right, absolutely
up for some reason. I did also like the back channel like text side of things too. I always enjoy that as a like
because
aside thing.
I always have quips, but I try not to like interrupt people. So like I find like the chat log is a very good way to like drain quips and then keep the narrative going.
Feel the need to say them all out loud. Yeah.
I also have a cat that it's not as acrobatic as it thinks it is, so it takes to like jump up and bang the desk and make a loud noise. So I do try to mute myself too, but no, it was never disruptive at all. And so I think further tips for that is just like one thing I've heard is to try to like kind of like exaggerate your emotions when you're on mute, because we only have these little squares. So seeing people go like this and it's a little bit more obvious. So that's a good thing to do. But I saw a great back channel. It was great. Definitely a good point and a good rose there, Lou.
I also feel like the stopping to do the using the rest move, like to hit those flags and stuff in a la I think Jason with these Dungeon World stuff with his like his take kind of take, watch, and make camp stuff is a good example of doing that. And it really like that's really important for me, like, because otherwise this sort of game, you just like, it ends up just being like future dungeon crawl, and it's nice because you can kind of get a lot of that characterization done in those bits, and then you know who you are and everyone else is, and your relationships when you know, it makes the fights and the exploration a lot richer for me. So yeah, that I thought that was working really nicely. I'm pretty sure we hit like everyone's flags got hit, so that was cool.
Yeah, we were kind of monsters with as it goes to like hitting flags or whatever.
And normally too, in that sort of scenario, I probably would have tried to think up one of those cool questions like Jason does about like, what's one thing this person does that's annoying, or one thing this person does that's endearing. But I was like, I have a feeling if I just ask these guys like, what are you doing, you're going to come up with a cool interaction. So I appreciate that as well. That was a good scene for sure.
I do want to hand a rose to Andrew. I was genuinely curious what your character had to say about stuff, and I enjoyed that conversation right towards the end of like, so is the new station our master? And you're like, no, they're, and like the reply is like, oh no, they're not worth it or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, because it like there was a sort of, your honor's on the line, you got to fulfill the contract and whatnot. It's like, is Mr. Johnson worth it? And like, oh no, he's not worth it. You got to actually find out your true master or whatever. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, like it was just a nice, yeah, it felt good.
Well, and I think it was helpful this time because we'd played together at least once. You know, so that makes some of that easier. I found that this time I couldn't really hit flags, but I could direct action towards the strengths of characters, which is not the same thing. But I felt like I could really play to what was strong in the characters, even though I wasn't, you know, hitting the flags.
You totally hit one of mine, which was the don't stop me from doing a really stupid thing.
Well, that's not one of your flags, though.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, did you change it?
Yeah, changed it at the start of this session. You hit it.
Don't insult his intelligence. I'm like, I'm never going to do that. So
yeah, that's why I changed it.
Yeah. But I just, Aaron, I hope you don't mind. I felt the need to impose myself on your narrative conclusion there.
I think we reached something stronger, right? Like I was for sure doing a throwaway, like, okay, here's my exit for my character. You guys can proceed on. I probably actually can't kill this thing. You're going to run into a rat-a-tat ghoul later on.
And I didn't want to step on what you were doing, but at the same time, I was like, oh, I don't want to waste you. And Sharper wouldn't want to waste, you know.
Yeah, neither of our characters would have just let him. And I thought that ended up being like awesome, like you stepping forward, and then, but wait, it was actually like the beginning of this whole plan that we had. That was rad.
Because that way it uses his cunning, it uses his ability to be annoying, and it uses his scuttling powers, as well as, you know, technology mixing with magic. So I mean, it kind of hit all of his strengths, and allows him to survive, you know, without downplaying the bad guy and also letting us get through. So
yeah, I like how we pretty much X-carded your end for your own character. Like, no, that's out.
I'm trying that another way.
On the one hand, I do apologize for, like, you had this vision. I was like, I can't let that happen, but you know,
I mean, like,
I hope
yeah, no hard feelings. I understood where you were coming from. It was a stretch. Like, I don't think Rat-a-tat has a big combat prowess. I don't think they could stand up to a Cannibal King.
Right. You don't use a screwdriver for a hammer's job.
Yeah. And so coming up with something where it's like, oh, I get to escape. Oh, I get to buy you time, was exactly what I was looking for, right? Like, it was the same thing I wanted, but I get to approach it how my character should have approached it. Yeah, and I think I understand I wasn't that set on climatic combat. Right. I was just trying to get out of the way to let you guys do your thing. And I think we actually, like, because you stepped in, I got a really nice send off, which was nice.
I appreciate the narrative flexibility of the structure to let us, kind of collaborate on that and put it together instead of having to,
Yeah. It also felt really, I'm not sure I've actually done a Blades flashback as good as that in Blades, but it felt really good here. Where I was like, okay, so yeah, we'll go that, and then we'll just do a flashback where it's like, no, Sharper tells me a better plan, and we knew the Cannibal King was going to be here, and this is how we took care of him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one of the things that I enjoy about this character's tactics,
Yeah, and you definitely have a. Yeah, and you were nice, and you incorporated like the UV lighting thing I was talking about, right? So like it was. I had no problem, and I understand why you stepped in. Where it's like, this doesn't make any sense. My character wouldn't let you do this. Can we try a bit harder here?
Because for Sharper, like almost everybody's a kid.
Yeah.
Except elves. He doesn't see elves as kids. He doesn't care how old they are.
Yeah,
they're all old.
Yeah.
But so I think it's great that as far as Michael, do you know who's in the next session?
Arthur should be back. Lou, I'm hoping is going to be able to join us again.
Yeah, I'm in.
I think it's going to be. I might try to recruit a fourth to see if anybody wants to hop in, but I'm also happy with just 3.
Because we kind of slimmed down, to this point, and so it'll be interesting to, see who's left standing at the end, right?
Yeah, it'd be a little bit of a challenge, I think. I could always try to work somebody in. Sometimes I'm happy. I know I did that last session or last series. It was like, I'm happy with the cast the way it is now.
Well, and the time-honored way to work people in between sessions is to free them.
Oh yeah.
So,
and if there's like a prisoner level coming up, it's not too hard to just think.
Well, especially. I mean, maybe our little krill buddy is like, ooh, the guards in the snack station in the guards area has picked some people up.
Right. Yeah, I have lots of tools there too. And I feel pretty comfortable with 4. So if somebody else can come in and have fun with a session with a great group of players, I'm definitely not going to deny that spot to anybody. So I'll probably make a mention to it on Slack or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's our cast there. And I just want to add too, yeah, I really loved what you guys crafted there for that send-off for Rat-a-tat. I thought it was really beautiful and well-deserved. And epilogues to me are like super important. That's like a vital thing to me. Like I never want any sort of mechanical imposition on that if I don't have to. So I love giving, as a player, I love that final feeling of, let me just narrate this final thing for my character. And so I think that all 3 of you were able to come together to make that something really special was really cool and great play. And you mentioned, Andrew, about like playing to different character strengths. I definitely saw that and thought that was really great play, very supportive, and definitely showed some of that like GM DNA that's in you. That came through in a good way. So that was really awesome. If everyone has a little bit of time, I know we're a little bit over on time here with the feedback, but I am a GM who's still learning, still improving, still experiencing. I personally had a great session, but I'm always trying to improve. So if we have any feedback of things that we didn't like or things we'd like to see change in the future, I'd love to hear that too. Any thoughts there?
One thing I can think of is like you like to throw to the table and answer, and everyone here has been really great. And I'm very envious of all your abilities to answer that. I've had players in the past who get really uncomfortable when it's like narrate something outside of their character's experience. And this isn't necessarily Thorn, but maybe something you can try. Because I feel like in the beginning, like the Orc Underground, the first project of Renraku, and those things were very like in the character's previous experience. But then there was something like what is like, not that Andrew's description of the Cannibal King isn't the best thing ever, right? But it's also like that's not in the character's experience. Like he opened this door to see what's inside it, right? Like, and then just be like, okay, you open the door and what's inside it? It's like, What do you mean? What's inside? Like, I think we did really well, and we're all pretty happy to jump in and support and build up and say, like, yeah, there's an elevator shaft filled with fucking everything. But I know I've had players in other groups who will balk at that. And to some people, that's a line not to cross. Whereas, like, I'll talk about my past experiences or maybe how I've done the past mission here. And maybe that's the time where you could just crouch it like, oh, this is an old nemesis of yours. What does he look like? Kind of thing.
Yeah, I've got because I think you used that technique a little bit, Michael, with in the last session with describing that cyberspace kind of space and asking us all like what was changing in there, and I really enjoyed it, but it did it stumped me for a second, especially still developing my new characters, like their view of the world and stuff. But yeah, I think I really love it. I love world building, and I think you could potentially just phrase it, if you phrased it ever so slightly differently, to help a player move out of their character. So like just to make sure it's a clear separation, like, you know, say like even just say like, this is nothing your character is seeing, tell me what this part of the world looks like. That would have helped me in that moment, I think, because I was
saying Lou as opposed to saying okay.
Yeah, or even just like people really get the metaphor of being the camera, or like, you know, what does this look like on screen or whatever. Like, yeah.
I mean, I've listened to a few episodes of Mercy Falls, and Jason does that all the time too, where he'll throw to the table and be like, oh, tell me how this room, what's from this room that lets you know that this guy's an asshole or whatever. And I think it played well or whatever, but it's also one of those things where it's like, yeah, if you're not used to it, maybe, like, I haven't done a lot with Gauntlet, and this has been really fun, and it's actually really great to be able to throw to a player and be like, hey, what's this thing? And they like, oh, it's this thing. It's like, oh, that's awesome. Let's do that.
Yeah, I'll say that much. But I think you're right. At the very least, in terms of setting expectations ahead of time, right? Like, here's a thing we might do, just to be more explicit about that up front so that people are prepared for that, and maybe even offering a break to give people a chance to think about that a little bit. That painting the scene type technique or whatever is something I really like, and has often got me pretty great results, as we saw tonight with Andrew. But you're right, that is something that's important to be aware of and to be considered best part of the conversation.
Yeah. And maybe it's just that I've played with other shitty players, and that the way you do it is fine, and that the fact that they couldn't swing or whatever. But I also think that allowing someone to say like, oh, you know about this because they're a personal rival or something is a way to like thread the middle in a way that can let them introduce a new character that only they would know about, but also being like, this is a surprise. It's someone from your past. I knew what was in here. I swear.
Yeah, and then that could help further like deepen their characterization too. So that's definitely a good tip. How about you, Andrew? Any feedback you'd like to share?
Yeah, I was thinking about the experience system. I think the idea of simplifying it down by knocking 2 decimal places off the end, 2 or 3, is a good idea. And I think what might be helpful is a chart that says you get an experience point by one option, you make 1,000 yen on a job. Maybe there's a punch card of you get 5 triggers and that gets you 1 or 2 experience, or you know, you complete a decent job and that gets you an experience. But like have a list with like an economy that feeds into a central, you know, low powered, consistent. So it's like tributaries into a river. You know, there's a number of different ways you can come in and they're all weighted differently, but the experience isn't reflective of any one of them. And to kind of nail that down, I think would be really helpful.
I totally agree. So just for more context, right? So World of Dungeons, what this is based on, is supposed to be like, what if like the very first edition of Dungeons and Dragons like was PBTA. So one of the like sort of like holdovers, nostalgia things is having that like your experience all comes from loot, right? And so that every time you earn a gold, that's your experience. And while that's like sort of makes sense too with old school Shadowrun with like Karma and Nguyen, like
Well, but
just
the
the
thing is,
mathematical stuff is so yeah, I hate it. You're right.
I think it doesn't reflect your play style. It doesn't reward what you want to reward, and the multiple pieces that you pull together don't fit together well. So I would say take a deep breath and just make it the way that you want it to be, to reflect the kind of rewards in play that you want to see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a modular system anyway. So, I mean, that's not a hard part to pull out. The only thing you have to change is that column.
Right.
But anyway, that's just a piece of feedback that I have that I think would make for a smoother experience.
Honestly, I think that even applies. Like, I like World of Dungeons as well. I enjoy. I've played a few sessions of that as well, and yeah, it sucks that like I love all these other parts, but there's this one thing. I think you're right. If I just spend a little time thinking about that, and you can customize it for whatever story you're trying to tell, I think that's a great idea.
I really think the players you're going to run across here are not the kind that are going to clutch their pearls and be very upset about that.
Exactly. I don't care at all about the XP. Like I wouldn't care. It just wasn't even there at all. In fact, I was even because I play Dungeon World so much, when I failed rolls, I was like, "Where's my XP?"
Right. Well, I might work with
like the end of session. Like I do like those end of session like question sort of things too, which with the flags and stuff, which are kind of cool. Like I think there could definitely be that in it. Like, did you hit the flags? Did we do some super cool cyberpunk shit?
Right. Jason Cordova, he's working on a really cool hack of World of Dungeons, which is like based on riffs, sort of.
Yeah, I played it with him.
Okay, well then you probably saw that. I kind of just looked at the character sheet, to get an idea of what he was working on. He had a really
super simple and super effective. Yeah, sorry,
his XP system, right? Was like that.
Yep, they were kind of like you had like personal flags. They're a bit like keys, I guess. You got XP.
Yeah,
unlocking keys and like that, unlocking.
Well, the two things I've played so far have revolved around either one or two situations that get resolved. So, I mean, getting paid by the Shadowrun is really delayed gratification, especially since the money source may not be what it was to begin with.
Right.
Yeah, I'm totally not going to get 8 million new yen.
Of all the people who are actually likely to pay out, the Draco Foundation probably would be one of them. But I might reach out to you guys during the week and say like, hey, what do you think about this XP system or something? I don't know. I mean, it's probably going to be hard to implement that.
I reckon definitely, if you're going to do this sort of thing again for the next run, definitely look at Jason stuff. I even felt like I could run that after playing it like twice or something. Like it's super simple and fun.
This is not a recommendation. It's just an idea. But you could even make the pieces point by. So if you want more hit dice or if you want more abilities, just saying.
That would also feel more Shadowrun.
Yeah, for sure.
And more video game too, like upping your like bloop, bloop, kind of thing.
That's honestly what I spent like my first year of role playing doing, was just building characters with a point buy in Shadowrun 4E. So
because you know what I get at 5th level? Plus 1d6 damage.
Woo!
I would like that at 1st level, please.
Yeah, so you can make your blast cannons and your tanks and your trolls. Yeah, so
I think people are going to have different interests.
Yeah,
you're going to have your rogues and your fighters, and some of them want more skills, and some of them just really want to hit people in the face.
And you can always give people the archetype like they do in the PDF of like, here's the Street Samurai, go. And if it's a one shot, just do it. But point buy is always fun, for sure.
I think when you're running in a environment, where you only have 4 sessions, you gotta really look at the reward structure, because like this is fine if you do a run every session, right? If you get paid out every session, it's fine. Or if you have like a long campaign and you're going to get paid out and you have like that kind of thing, it's fine. But like knowing you have 4 sessions, like with 4 sessions, like milestone doesn't seem that bad. But I also like karma point buy. Like karma point buy feels pretty sweet, and you can do things where like, did you ever see Adam Cobal's run of Shadowrun Mirror Shades?
I think I'd seen it, but I don't think I did.
He does a thing where they had like player votes at the end, like who's MVP, who's team worker, and who's what was the other one?
Kind of like Mouse Guard or Burning Wheel style.
Yeah.
Cobalt.
Yeah, it does. It turned into a horrible dating sim, but
Wow.
it if you're talking about like points, right? Like hitting a flag is karma, right? Getting awarded MVP is a karma, right? And then you just buy at the end, and then you get that kind of stuff. Or it could be something like that. Like you could do those MVP questions, you could do the flags, and then you can do like Dungeon World questions at the end. Did you defeat something? Did you learn something? Did you find a treasure or get some new gear?
Well, and you could also put prerequisites on things. Like you want an extra 1d6. Not only is that more expensive, but there might be prerequisites to explain how your character is suddenly twice as dangerous. And there's other things like, okay, you want to get cybers. Well, you have to
leave your college.
Cybers. I mean,
Wow.
Now you'll end up having to draw a whole skill tree.
You're not just going to spontaneously bloom wired reflexes, you know.
If it's going to happen anywhere, it's going to happen here. I'll tell you that. Although maybe not by your choice.
Yeah.
But thanks again, everyone, for playing. Thank you for sticking around for feedback. I feel really good after the session. I feel even better after the feedback. I just want to thank all of you for coming tonight and bringing your A game. And Aaron, I hope we play again another time.
Yeah, if I can ever find a gauntlet where I don't have to plan a month in ahead, maybe.
Get on that wait list, brother.
Lou, next week we'll go ahead and see about our gang of 2, I guess.
Yes.
This new math is killing
No,
me.
you're still totally in the gang, dude.
All right, cool. Well, I'm going to end the broadcast now.